Today is Friday, the 21st of March 2025, and we are live on the Joy News channel across Ghana's 16 regions, around the world on myjoyonline.com, on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 125, and across all social media platforms as Joy News on TV. Folks, welcome aboard the AM show. My name is Sweetie Abochi.
My name is Benjamin Akakbo, and though it's one of the things we'll discuss in our big stories, I just want to start. Did you know today is International Day of Forests? What is the state of our forests in Ghana? It's a matter we'll delve incisively into, but here's the lineup for the morning. So we'll be serving you the news in a bit, followed by the news review. Our guests join us. Andrew Appiah Dankwa is a spokesperson, Movement for Change. Kwame Nkrumah Botio, General Secretary of the CPP, and Professor Isaac Wedi, Dean, Accounting and Finance at the University of Professional Studies, Accra. That will be followed by sports, and then we get into our big stories.
Now, for the very first big story, we'll look at that fuel station that was razed after an explosion in Teshi, a suburb of Accra, destroying vehicles and commercial structures. We'll get the Ghana National Fire Service for updates on that. But that's not all. We'll also be asking a question of whether or not you will allow your child to participate in clinical trials. But why wouldn't you if you would not, even though there seem to be some potential benefits? We hear from Professor George Obingeje. He's Director, Center for Clinical Pharmacology and Therapeutics, University of Ghana Medical School, on the enigmas carrying out clinical trials in children.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, today is International Day of Forests. So how are you helping to preserve the forest in the face of reckless degradation of our forest belt, galamsey, and everything in between? We'll be discussing those hard issues right here on the AM show. We'll also bring you my blunt thoughts, and I'll definitely be talking about these three issues. I'll be talking about glaucoma, shocker, right? It's so crucial, and I'll be talking about it. I'll talk about governance and galamsey. And after that, we'll get into our e-corner. All of these lined up for you this morning. You don't want to miss a beat. Stick and stay with us. We'll bring you the news up next. But you do know this show is brought to you courtesy of, you know what, Waylead Properties. They help us bring you this entire show. Now stick and stay. We'll be right back.
You're live on the Joy News channel for the AM News with me, Sweetie Abochi. Starting with, to promote transparency and good governance, Star Ghana Foundation has embarked on a mission to empower Ghanaian youth to demand for accountability from their leaders so as to keep them on their toes. We'll tell you more about it in this report.
The Capacity Building Workshop for Youth Accountability Corps aimed to equip 32 young people from across the country with the skills and knowledge necessary to hold their leaders accountable. Through the training, the youth will be abreast with the manifesto and budget of the government to make them question the government always. Programs Manager for Youth Bridge Foundation, Joyce Nyame, highlights the need for the youth to know what the government has for them in their manifesto and budget.
We seek to empower and inspire accountability from young people, and also for them to be able to demand accountability from policymakers. This is a second leg of the training. We've had one already last year ahead of the general elections, and then from what we've been observing, they are inspired more with the capacity that they are asking for to be able to do that. So we are quite sure after this training, they will hit the ground running in making sure that the government in power commit and also keep to the promises it's made during the election period.
The student trainee, Davina Owusu-Kufuor, shared her joy in partaking in the workshop, as that has enabled her to know how to amplify her voice in demanding for accountability.
I joined the training because I wanted to learn, especially about the economic policies and how they would impact my life as a youth. I have learned that I should be abreast with the national budget so that I can hold the government accountable to his promises.
Through interactive sessions, role plays, and group discussions, participants gained a deeper understanding of governance, accountability, and their role in promoting transparency. An assembly member from the Ashanti region, Ernest Ajiman, assured he would share the knowledge gained with community members so they can also be empowered.
Going back to the community, I will make sure I organize little deba, community deba, and then train them, have a conversation with them, let them know the importance of asking questions because accountability leads to success.
Involving the youth in national discourse and decision-making has become imperative as their voices cannot be curtailed if development is a priority for any government. Jennifer August's report read to you.
Gender advocates have called for more deliberate efforts in ensuring fair representation of women in leadership and governance. Speaking on the first episode of Women Rising, a Joy News Star Ghana Foundation initiative with funding from Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, panelists agreed that though there's been some progress in women inclusion, a lot more work is required in shoring up the numbers. Elsie Asiedu monitored the show and filed this report.
While the government is said to have made notable strides, the discussants on the first episode of Women Rising noted that women's representation still lags behind the required minimum. Executive Director of the Gender Center for Empowering Development, GENSED, Esther Tewia, highlighted godfatherism and political monetization as major barriers hindering women's representation in leadership and governance.
Now, when you look at, again, our political party system, and you look at the internal political party practices, the internal practices, again, does not align with democratic principles. And so you have a political party system that is centered around godfatherism, that is centered around money, that is centered around age-old tradition. That you hear the appointment coming up and you go deep into it, not this government alone, you go deep into the former government, you go to their backgrounds, their fathers or uncles or aunties or whatever were linked to Dankwa Buzia tradition, their mothers or fathers were linked to it and NDC back and forth. You hear even with the former vice president where they linked him that your father's political capital is here. A lot more women, parents do not really have that political capital. And so in homes where there's that political capital, there's emphasis on the male person to be the driver of it, of the political capital that they've gained.
Labour expert Bashira Tukamal was of the view that beyond the legal frameworks, societal attitudes towards women in leadership must shift. She revealed that gender-based violence is still on the rise, hindering the progress.
This country has been mismanaged by men. Who has asked them questions about their competency anyway? You get it? So my issue is, let's remove the standards we are putting there, because that is the excuse the political parties are giving us. Because they tell you we do have women, but they are not competent enough. And once we ourselves are using the competency as a tool, then we shoot ourselves in the foot. And we can't say that enough. To be frank, because we are here and we are seeking to find solutions. One of the biggest challenges that women have in political party for progression, development, and ascending to the highest authority has been issues of gender-based violence.
Head of programs at Star Ghana, Eunice Agbenyaji, called on the media and civil society organizations to develop traceability systems that will track the effectiveness of the Affirmative Action Act implementation.
If we don't, re-emphasize and follow the appointments to make sure that at least the 30% is attained, we wouldn't get there, because there are political tensions, even in the government, There are actors that are not yet transformed in terms of their appreciation of what women bring to the table, So we need as civil society and the media, of course, to follow the appointment.
Quite a number of the live studio audience also had the opportunity to make contributions and ask critical questions that require national attention and probe. As Ghana moves forward, the implementation of the Affirmative Action Act stands as a critical step towards dismantling barriers and promoting a more inclusive political landscape.
Koginta Ghana's country director, Dr. Reverend Clement Alpeguro, says community policing is key to preventing violent extremism and domestic violence. Speaking at a workshop in Wa, he emphasized public involvement in security and the need for police-community collaboration. Joy News' Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
To strengthen community resilience and the Ghana Police Service's capacity in managing the threats of violent extremism, the European Union, through Kojinta, organized a 4-day community policing training for selected hotspots in the Upper West region. The training aimed to equip police officers with the requisite skills necessary to facilitate the implementation of community policing in Ghana. Country Director of Kojinta, Dr. Reverend Father Clement Ampeno, in an interview with Joy News, explained the purpose of the workshop for the police.
We are piloting it in all the 5 regions of northern Ghana. This project was piloted in the south in 3 police districts. And because of the violent extremism threats and also potential for domestic violence, we think that community policing is one of the best ways for the police to be able to gather information that can be processed into useful intelligence to keep communities safe.
Dr. Reverend Father Clement Ampeno noted that community policing is key to preventing violent extremism and potential domestic violence.
The fear of crime can be even more debilitating than crime itself. Does the community understand? Every community is different. In one community, it may be armed robbery. In another community, it may be cattle rustling. In another community, it's a different thing. So what are the crimes in the community? What crimes are people afraid of? And how do we work together with the Ghana Police Service to reduce these crimes so that the average person can go to sleep in peace? For instance, in the community policing strategy, there are community watchdogs. What does community watchdog mean? Who can be a member of the community watchdog? And how are they trained? Then you have community police assistants. These are all part of the strategy.
Deputy Upper Regional Commander of the Ghana Police Service, ACP, Dr. Dinam Zoiku, on his part, observed that policing is shifting away from a reactionary force to a proactive approach. Dr. Zoiku added that a lack of trust between police and community members hinders effective service delivery.
It takes 2 to tango. So we want to get the public involved in how we provide solutions to the policing problems they have. And this is the reason why we would like the public to know that yes, we are also doing our best to improve in the way we provide services to them. And so they should have the trust in us. They should come to us when they are in trouble. When they see us in the communities, they should know that we are there for their safety.
The Upper West Regional Officer of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, Madam Catherine B.K. Hesse, has urged the government to establish a thread factory to support the Ghana Weavers Association. She said this would boost production, add value to their products, and enhance exports under the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Join us, Rafiq Salam, again.
Speaking at a graduation of 230 weavers in the Upper West region, Upper West Regional Officer of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, ICU of Ghana, Catherine B.K. Hesse, commended the Ghana Weavers Association, GAWA, for its invaluable contribution to the country's development over the years. She singled out the training given to the sea of apprentices, which has created employment opportunities for them to be self-employed, thereby bettering their lives.
You have graduated from weaving training, helping to address the pressing issue of unemployment in our nation. The employment created through this initiative has provided meaningful opportunity for young men and women, helping to reduce the social vices in our community.
Catherine B.K. Hesse, however, called on the government to establish a thread factory in the region to support the work of the Ghana Weavers Association.
We would like to take this opportunity to appeal to the government of Ghana to support weavers in establishing a factory in the production for the threads they use in weaving their cloth here in the Upper West region. This will bring in production closer to them, We all know how much they contribute to the growth of this country. Furthermore, though the Africa Free Continental Trade Area, weavers would benefit from the exportation of their beautiful weave cloths, but they will need more molding machines to enhance their craft.
There was further appeal to the government from the chairperson of the Ghana Modern Traditional Cloth Weavers Association, Euphemia Sanzere.
Many people are not be roaming at the street, so we want people to train more and more. If we have support from the government, we will be happy for that.
In another development, the Center for National Culture, CNC, also graduated 32 weavers. The aim of the project, which was initiated in 1992, is to empower the girl child. Our Power Minister, Lawyer Luwonga Charles Pozun, spoke of the commitment of the government to retool vocational and technical institutions in the country.
Government firmly believes that skills training is the backbone of sustainable economic growth. That is why government is determined to channel significant amount of resources to vocational and technical education and training.
As the world keeps advancing, the Dean of the School of Graduate Studies and Research at the Cape Coast Technical University, Surveyor Professor Emmanuel Bamfoye, is urging the use of artificial intelligence in postgraduate studies and research. He believes when it's used properly and properly guided, it will guide improved postgraduate research and promote community development. Abigail Isel Nkrumah has more in this report.
The 5th International Conference of Postgraduate Studies held in the University of Cape Coast was on the theme Transforming Communities, Postgraduate Education and Research for Resilience and Development in Africa. The 3-day conference covered research presentations on areas such as economics, technology, and environment.
We organized this conference is to help bring together graduate students internationally so that they can deliberate, network, learn about what each other is doing, and make contacts such that they can get information support for their research. I think, I guess one of the students raised an issue, which is very minute. I mean, it doesn't happen in all the, departments, but they may have personal reasons too. But all that we want to tell them is that we need to encourage them to source for such funding, so that it can help them finish their studies. Oh, postgraduate students should have time. They should have time because research entails a lot of time. And to obtain a postgraduate degree, you need to be focused, you need to have time, and you need to plan. So I believe if they do these things, then we can have quality graduates being produced.
One of the topics raised at the opening ceremony was the use of artificial intelligence in graduate studies, to which the Dean of the School of Graduate Studies and Research at the Cape Coast Technical University, Surveyor Professor Emmanuel Bamfoye, agrees.
We should not, be always criticizing negatively on the use of AI, because AI has come to stay. Whatever we do, AI has come to stay. Whenever you are teaching, students use AI to see whether what you are saying is on the right path. And so we don't need to frown on them, but let us build on what AI is. Let us use the positive of AI to leverage on our research outputs in Africa. Because if we don't want it, the world is using it. And that is what we need to do so that at least we can catch up with what the world is using. But we need to focus on originality and not just copying the work and using it. Because definitely when you copy it, you will be observed, and that would be tantamount to plagiarism.
The president of the Graduate Students Association of Ghana UCC branch, Robert Iping Nankob, at the closing ceremony advocated for government and academic stakeholders to show more interest in postgraduate research.
In fact, the conference has presented key insights that are relevant for postgraduate research, and it is my belief that postgraduate students will learn lessons from the various presentations, roundtable discussions, and panel experts who espouse on the theme for this year's conference.
From UCC, Abigail Isel Nkrumah reports for Joy News.
Now, the Lighthouse Christian Mission School and Brighter Moon Preparatory School in the Navrongo in the Upper East region have secured spots among the top 50 contenders in the 2025 Inter-School Reading Quiz. The competition is steadily progressing to the 116th stage, and the Pebby Cups team now on the verification tour to confirm the reading results of participating schools across the country. And they stopped at Navrongo in the Upper East region, beg your pardon, where the two schools went through the process. Our correspondent, Albert Sorry, has more in this report.
The Pebby Cups Inter-Schools Reading Quiz aims to get children to love to read so they can succeed in school. It also aims to ignite a vibrant reading culture nationwide. Having commenced in October last year, the Pebby Cups Inter-Schools Reading Quiz was designed with the added incentive of earning points by passing quizzes on a wide range of books provided on the organization's digital platforms. This initiative aims to foster a strong culture of reading among Ghanaian children, emphasizing the importance of literature as a foundational skill for all learning. The founder and CEO of Pebby Cups, Anyele Pebby, explains further.
We have been able to engage schools from all across the country to participate in this reading competition, and we had them reading from the month of October all the way to February. We are going around the country now verifying their reading results in order to shortlist the top 32 schools to take part in the actual competition, from where they will go to the round of 16, quarterfinals, semi-finals, and the finals, where we have our grand winner.
She also explained how the schools were selected to be part of the competition.
In selecting the schools, we actually didn't restrict our selection process. We advertised that schools could apply and join, and so we had schools applying from all over the country, and they just had to commit to guide their children in the reading process, to help them to sign onto our platform and to read the hundreds of books, the thousands of books there, so that they could pass the quizzes, and then those quizzes get them points for which they will be able to qualify. And the verification tour that is nationwide is being done for the schools that were in the top 50 after 4 months of reading. So Lighthouse Christian Mission School in Navrongo was one of the schools that were in the top 50 schools in the whole of Pebby Cups, as well Brighter Moon Preparatory School was also one of the top 50 schools in the whole of Pebby Cups, and both schools are in Navrongo. That's why we are here.
That's it for the news proper. Let's get into the business update now with Benjamin Akakbo.
Our apologies for that. But for now, we're heading straight into our currency market. Let's get into our sole story for the morning. And a former Securities and Exchange Commission Director General, Dr. Edu Anani-Antwi, is pushing for more education on investments to minimize misunderstanding between banks and bondholders. This was after some Eurobond investors started the process to sue banks over losses recorded as a result of the debt exchange program. Dr. Antwi says this approach could help minimize these challenges.
You see, as I have always been arguing that investors require information to make informed decisions. And that is why if you go to the Securities and Exchange Commission, whenever any issuer is going to issue some securities, the Commission will require you to provide sufficient, adequate information. That information is to enable investors decide whether or not they will purchase the bonds. So sometimes the issuers will think that the regulator is forcing them to disclose so much, but that is what is required so that they will base their decision on the information available. Again, sometimes the information is given, and once it is given, if you, the investor, you don't read, and I mean, sometimes people do not read the information, even though the information is provided for the investor. In many cases, people will just, if there's a prospectus, they will just turn to the end page where the form, subscription form is there, and then they will just fill and sign and purchase the shares. In that case, the information has been provided for you. You decided not to read. So you can't come back and say somebody didn't give you the information. But if you're able to prove that the information was with the advisor and the advisor did not give you that information for you to make informed decision about what to do, then I am saying that you may be able to prove a case against the advisor for not acting professionally in that manner.
Well, let's get into our commodities market now. It's a wrap. It's a Duku business update done and dusted. Back to you, Sweetie Abochi.
Well, thank you, Ben, for serving us business updates. That wraps up the AM News Bulletin on the show. Up next, news review segment. Our guest will join us shortly and the conversations will begin. Stay with us. We'll be right back. It's a wet Friday morning and you're live on Joy News for the AM show, sponsored by Waylead Properties. My name is Sweetie Abochi and this is the news review segment. But before we get into that, are you thinking of a rewarding investment you can engage in? Waylead Company Limited is your preferred choice for such investment. Waylead Company Limited is a real estate company with several developments to its credit right here in Accra. Invest in our new development, Willow Lane, where elegance will meet tranquility in the heart of Accra. We provide quality housing at an affordable cost and also with flexible payment option. And at Waylead Properties, we provide you 24-hour security, reliable power supply, and other social amenities to make your stay a memorable one. Why don't you give us a call? 0240-111-119 or 0504-499-999. It's very easy to remember, or you can find us online, www.waylead.org for more information. This morning, I have a number of guests, but I want to start with the very first person in the studio with me, Andrew Appiah-Dankwa, spokesperson for the Movement for Change. Andy, it's good to see you.
Yes, same here. Good morning.
Good morning. How's the Movement for Change? How are things going down there?
Oh, no, things are going very well. Let me wish you guys a good morning. Things are going on very, very well, and very soon you'll be seeing the new face of the movement.
It's a new face?
Yeah, as
okay.
We are moving for change. So, like the butterfly, we would have the various stages, and very soon you'll be seeing.
I can't wait.
Yeah. I like
All
that.
right. So aside that, did you come with a reflection on something? Anything happening in the country that you want to share some quick thoughts on before we get into the papers? We have a number of them today.
Yeah, in fact, a number of things have been on my mind, but this with the spate of interviews that Honorable Adjasafo is giving, I think that'll be the focus of my reflection.
It's surprising that she's granting many interviews.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because, as in what she's been saying, some of us have been saying them for a very long time. As in before I even left the party, as in I said a number of things that she's been saying. Essentially, that the MPP as a party, as a political institution, as the home of the values and principles of liberal democracy, have departed radically from those ideals and principles. And I think the easiest evidence I can point to that departure is how they handle dissenting views.
Right.
So then their first, usually they always attempt to gag people who tend to give a certain opinion that does not sit with. I wouldn't say majority of the members, but majority of people at the top. Because Adjasafo is saying a lot of very important things. Yeah. And personally,
she emphasized that she wasn't actually discussing party issues. She was just expressing things that happened to her, you know. I mean, we have to get into the newspaper so that we...
and also national issues. Because, because for me, the most critical thing is she's saying essentially that the president supported corruption. Yeah, because she said...
explosive, wasn't it?
No. And you see, so she doesn't know me. I don't think I know her, but I've had an experience with her indirectly before whilst I was at the law school. So when we were at the Faculty of Law first year, a group of friends of us, a group of us were standing there. So she came. I think at that time she had been called to the bar. Okay. Yeah, or she was a young lawyer who came to the faculty. So you know, something about 2004 when Ghana was very conservative. It's not now that. So there were a group of us, 5 boys, who was a very beautiful woman, and then we were doing concern. So somebody prompted her, listen, this young woman, and then she just looked at us, waved and smiled. So for all those 5 of us, till now, she has her firm support. Unlike, so she's a very nice person, and she's very intelligent. So I think you see, the focus of a party is to tap on the intelligence of some of these members to the benefit of account. Well, she's also an expert in procurement. So for MPP to have had all those procurement issues and have somebody like her who is an expert, and then for the party to have fought her, like she's saying, I think she even did well to have handled or to have kept all these within her. My only disappointment is that she didn't speak at that time.
Well,
so that's my only disappointment.
You know, be sure on what strategy she would adopt.
I can tell you that she has the support of majority of Ghanaians. She should go on, because then they were fighting to build.
Well, she has been referred to a disciplinary committee. So let's see how that pans out.
So
let's just so that our other guests can join us. Let me read the stories on the headline, the front page of the Daily Graphic. New Kweuman Hene pledges to improve agric other sectors. Ban excavators, activists advocate. And Electrochem seeks $445 million to expand operations. I want to read a bit of the story about activists advocating that excavators be seized. Key environmental activists have called on President John Dramani Mahama to reconsider the directive not to ban excavators used for illegal mining, commonly called galamsey in local circles. They said the outright directive to confiscate excavators used by illegal miners without creating room for burning the equipment in difficult situations was not deterrent enough and also had the potential to stall efforts to crack down on the menace. But I know that the strategy has changed because, was it the president that was saying that the new strategy is to use these excavators to track these illegal miners so that we can perpetrate, you know, they can face justice, you know what I mean? Let me welcome Osajefo Kwame Nkrumah Botsu. Good morning. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Look good.
Thank you. You too.
I like the thing you're wearing. Fugu.
Thank you.
Well, it's a wet morning, and we just started with Sarah Joasafo's explosive interview. And I want to say that, I mean, of course, she speaks to Joy News and she gets that response. She was speaking all over the place. And she speaks to Joy News, and here we go. But what's on your mind this morning before we continue?
Well, on my mind this morning is the youth of Ghana.
Yeah.
We have a lot of good things happening. By youth, I mean those under 40. And I don't fall in that category. There was a time I fell in that category. But I was at a funeral recently, and quite a number of youth who are doing very well were there to give their condolences to the bereaved. And we had, well, to single out maybe, I think the CEO of one of the fast food chains, is it Pizza Man or something? And I think his age was mentioned then, and I was quite surprised at how young he was. And I also heard today to one of those entrepreneurs. Yes, and I think it's very positive. I get goosebumps when I see such things. You know, sometimes there's so much negativity and all that, but when you see that you're doing so well, it gives you hope. It gives you hope that we have our own Mark Zuckerbergs and then other things. So I think kudos to the youth of Ghana. There's hope for us all. And also I think we should support the youth. We shouldn't victimize them. And that brings to mind another good news regarding one of the youth who unfortunately lost his life, Ahmed Swale.
Yeah.
I was very happy to hear that there's been some positive leads. And I think that nobody should go to the extent of taking anybody's life for whatever reason, whether you agree or disagree with their methods of journalism or all that. So I think it's the youth who are on my mind this morning.
I know I just read a story about galamsey, and we will get to it in the papers, but what did you think about the response from the New Patriotic Party in response to that interview Joasafo granted and those explosive pieces of information she was...
I watched the interview.
Yeah.
I mean, she spoke from the bottom of her heart. I mean, it was heartfelt. It takes a lot of courage to just bear your heart out. I mean, she went very personal details about losing a child and all that. It was very deep. It was very deep. And I saw the response from my own brother and fellow counsel, Justin, the NPP General Secretary, about disciplinary action being taken against her. However, listening to the interview closely, I know in his statement, he stated that issues likely to cause disaffection for the party.
Especially because they're trying to rebuild.
It's true. But the thing is, did she really speak against the party, or did she speak against specific individuals? You understand me? Did she speak against the party or against specific individuals? And also, to give Justin the benefit of the doubt, submitting her to the disciplinary committee does not mean she has been found guilty of anything. They are going to go into the matters. But I think this is something that should have been handled privately and not put so much in the public domain, because I don't think she said anything against the party per se. She singled out certain individuals.
Yeah, I remember watching the interview yesterday, and I thought, oh, this woman had a lot to offload off her chest. And about 20 minutes later, I heard the breaking news sound going. I was like, what's happening in the country today? I just want to sleep. And then it turns out that the NPP, I think the exact thing she was fighting, you know, saying that, let me express myself. You said, no, let us not speak. Why shouldn't I speak? And then they slap you with this to sort of prevent you from even more, granting more interviews and saying more things. And I think we should go past that level of politicking where you want to gag someone because they can't express, you don't want them to express themselves because it paints you in a bad light. I think that's just not acceptable.
It's true. And I also think because she's well known, that is why, because other people in the party have said worse and nothing was done to them, probably because they are either too powerful or they are not powerful enough. But she unfortunately for her, she's at a certain level where she's a voice that people pay attention.
She's a newsmaker.
She is.
I mean, yeah.
She's a newsmaker. So I think there's a bit of bullying there. But anyway, I know Justin will do a good job. He's quite a fair person. And I'm sure that the disciplinary committee will also be fair to her. Hopefully.
All right.
Listen, she shouldn't be invited to the disciplinary committee in the first place. As in, this is a party.
She shouldn't have.
No, but this is a party that says that they believe in the principles of freedom of mind. Yeah, understand. Yeah. Why should because it's not about whether she's been found guilty or not, but the fact that she's being invited to the disciplinary committee is the party, the people who are prosecuting her there, saying that we think you have done something wrong. Yeah. Now, for a party that says that they believe in our right, people's right to free thought. Yes, and see, the point is that they have departed radically from their ideals and values. They are just MPP by name, not by their spirit and by their value set. And also, how can they rebuild?
Let me pause on that point on how we can rebuild. News just coming in right now. We are hearing of fire outbreak on the top floor of a building in Edum, Kumasi, next to Hello FM, and it's spreading really fast. We are drawing the attention of the Ghana Fire Service. Anyone who can get their attention to go there and see how they can help. I already see a vehicle there, but we'll follow what's happening keenly, and we'll bring you details and updates. But we know this is happening. The top floor of a building in Edum, Kumasi, next to Hello FM, and it's spreading really fast. Those are the visuals you see on your screens right there. I really hope when these things happen, people can, distance themselves from the fire. You don't get so close to a building that is ablaze. Yeah. Anything can happen.
Exactly.
Things can fall on you.
Yeah.
Right. So let's continue our conversation. When we have more updates on that fire incident, we'll keep you updated. You were saying that about rebuilding.
Yeah, so in 2001, as when President Kufuor realized that based on our checkered history, the checkered history of this country, we needed reconciliation so that we can then move on. He thought that he had to create a platform where people will come and vent. And that's how come they created the Truth and Reconciliation. Because you cannot read for a party that has been destroyed, that's departed so radically like the MPP has. I think the solution isn't in gagging people. The solution is in creating a platform where people will come and vent. Then you can have a basis for
is that the platform to vent about party issues? Because I'm just following the analogy you're making, that they should create a platform. I know that for whatever it's worth, they've set out a committee, Baby Elephant, I heard someone call Baby Elephant, to investigate what accounted for that defeat in 2024 elections. So if you say they should create a platform, is using the media to vent your spleen that way, is that the right platform?
No, so very central to what Address is saying is a fundamental lack of trust for the so-called committee.
Yes. That was another point. That is just a way.
There's a fundamental
show working without actually intending to, and blame Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, I think.
Exactly, because what the party. So, in fact, throughout the reign of Nana Addo, if there's something that was clear, it was a party or a leadership that always did something to represent something, no commitment. You understand? And so, Address for having been and having kept quiet, knows that this committee thing is just to once again to do something, to show something, no commitment, nothing is going to happen. The party has not, well, he Justin Kodia, and he's my very good friend, has he not gone around also granting interviews and talking about some of these negative things? You have failed to create that platform. So what will happen? People will go on air and what hasn't been said about Address, or what did they not say about Address for during those periods? So you see, for me, like I said earlier, we support her. Unless and until the party creates a platform where the people themselves, the party people themselves, will believe, then as in the chaos will continue. Because you see, there are very senior people in the party who have already come out and declared their support for Address. Not for Address. It's not about Dr. Bawumia. It's about the soul of the party, what the party represents. I'm saying that the party has radically departed from their core values. The thoughts that they will gag people. And this gagging has been happening since like 2009. If you talk, then they use the Senate committee and they suspend you.
Right.
If you talk, they use it. So for me, and it's also a matter of national interest, because we need our political parties to be healthy. Yeah. The MPP needs a radical introspection not doing things to represent things. And they should not, and I think the way to go is not by this disciplinary committee, which for me send a signal that they are going to come heavy on anybody who dares to speak the truth in their bid to reconcile. And it's for that reason why I don't agree with the view that they have not necessarily held her guilty.
Yeah.
They're even inviting her. It's telling her that
Gentlemen,
we think
we are getting more information on this fire happening at Edum Kumasi. We have the producer for Love FM on phone with us, Eugene Osei-Tutu. Eugene, thanks for joining the conversation. Do we know what started the fire and what's the current update you have for us?
So the current update is that our colleague of ours is on the scene. What you can report is that the top floor of the building is almost gone. It's a 4-story building. It's an adjoining building to Hello FM in Kumasi, what we call the Despite building. That is the building in which Hello FM operates, a subsidiary of the Despite Group. What I can report is that we spoke to the programs manager live on Love FM, and she's confirmed that the building has been evacuated. So all the staff of Hello FM have been told to evacuate the building. Now, the building that is on fire, the top floor is almost gone. Our colleague on the ground tells us that the next floor has also caught fire, and the building on the left has also caught fire. So far, we can report that 2 fire tenders are on the scene, and they are trying to get a ladder so that the fire officers on the scene can get to the building. Because so far, when you look at the visuals we are getting from the scene, it seems the water hose they are using cannot get to where the fire is because of the length of the building. So that is the report we are picking so far. We spoke to an eyewitness who was on the scene, who gave the impression that there was some power fluctuation in the lead up to the fire in the early hours of the morning, and then he believes that the power fluctuation at the scene caused the fire incident. We are yet to speak to the fire service to get official statement, but so far this is what the eyewitness and our reporters on the scene are telling us on Love FM.
Power outages. It's suspected that it's the power outages that caused the fire?
According to the eyewitness on the scene, he spoke about power fluctuations.
Fluctuations.
That probably led to the fire. But we are yet to speak to the fire service in the region to confirm whether that indeed happened or the ECD. But what you can report is that there are 2 fire tenders on the scene. There's been evacuation of the Hello FM building, and also they cannot reach the fire, so they are calling in other fire tenders to come to the scene where they can have the ladder to reach where the fire is.
And I also heard that you said there are 2 fire tenders there, but they don't have a ladder to reach the top floor where the fire is actually...
Yes. So when you look at the videos that is coming from there, you can clearly see that the holes they are using do not have the length to get to where exactly the fire is, because the fire tender is on the ground, and there's a 4-story building. So there's a down floor, a first floor, a second floor, and a third floor. And the fire tender is on the road. So they cannot access directly the fire. So they are calling in reinforcements to bring in other fire tender, which have the requisite ladder so that they can get to the level where the fire is.
Well, thank you so much, Eugene Osei-Tutu. And of course, we will reach back when you have more updates for us so that we can keep Ghana updated on that. Gentlemen, I find this quite disheartening that 2 fire tenders are on ground to fight a fire on the top building of on the top floor of a building, and they don't have, ladders. I learned it's got a crane fire tender or so, and we don't have that. So they're calling for reinforcement. And we are over 60 years old as an independent country, and this is what we're seeing on your screens right now. How do you feel about this?
It's sad.
Wow.
But Sweetie, are you not worried that every May, June, we all know that the rains will come? And I'm sure, I'm not a prophet, but we know that there will be disasters, people will be displaced. And you see, as a country, we all need to be serious. We simply fail to use our powers to create the systems that will protect ourselves.
Yeah.
And those includes the fire service.
Yeah.
So they are just there as fire service. We appoint leaders there. That's it. Even the fire hydrants, that was a requirement. That was a comment under our building code. Do we insist on them now?
This is not just coming up, eh?
No.
We've always been hammering on how the fire service needs equipment, proper infrastructure so that they can fight fires. There was a time in this country where it took days to quench one fire somewhere in Accra. But let me welcome Professor Isaac Boedi into the conversation. He's Dean, Accounting and Finance at UPSA. Prof, welcome to the program.
Well,
Good morning. You look beautiful.
Thank you. You don't look.
Good morning.
You look handsome.
Well, I'm managing.
I'm learning how to compliment men often. You know, I like complimenting women, not men. But, Prof, I want your quick thoughts on this. Fire engulfs top floor of a building in Edum Kumasi. We have 2 fire tenders there, and they don't have the ladders. I want to keep it simple. Ladders to climb and reach the top floor where the fire is actually destroying things. In your visuals right now, you can see people, I think, offloading things from the building. Yeah, these are live images we're showing you right now. And our reporter just told us, that is a producer rather, for Love FM, was telling us, Eugene Osetutu, that the building next to it has also caught the fire, and all on the top floor.
I'm concerned of the adjacent buildings, the
Yes.
other ones very close to. It's a serious issue, a worrying situation. We've been talking about this over the years. Recently, the one at Cantamanto, and other places. It's a perennial something. Every year, we go through this cycle. You know, when we approve budgets, I don't know how many of our reporters and some of us, we go through, or after those budgets have been read, allocations to some of these institutions. They always have budget lines. Do they get the money or the fund or allocations? And if they do, what do they do with those funds? Now we are started with, they don't have any equipment there to help reduce the fire or quench it. It's a difficult situation. And I don't know when we can come out of this situation. I don't know. I have no solution.
I'm just concerned with the people there. Looks like they found something. Hopefully that can reach that. No, that's just a water hose.
It looks like it's reached the ground floor.
The fire is on the
Prof,
my
Prof, you
God.
see, we keep on
It's
talking
not reached the ground
Prof,
floor.
we keep on talking about decentralization. Yes, we keep on saying decentralization. Now, fire service shouldn't be centralized. It should be decentralized. So we should have a relook at our entire governance structure. Do proper decentralization. Ensure that the fire service and the services that are meant to guide or guard our security are handled by the cities.
You know, earlier
proper city councils.
Indicated I don't have solution to this problem. I don't have, because we'll be talking about this, and I'm really worried about allocation that we give. So whether we decentralize or not, of course, funds often are available or made ready for this institution. And look at 4 people, 5 people going to quench this fire. You saw in the video.
I was conversing with a friend yesterday, and I was talking about how it looks like there are more high-rise buildings popping up in Accra. I was making a comparison to Côte d'Ivoire. The last time I was there, many cranes everywhere you see. They're actually building very high-rise buildings. And I was saying that maybe it's good for us that we are not reaching that high, because when things like this happen, we don't know how to work around it. And truthfully, this happens this morning, and we are seeing it right here on the, on your screens. Well, hopefully the Ghana Fire Service can find a way to quench that fire within the shortest possible time. They said they have called for reinforcement, so perhaps the ladders are there. The aerial ladder device, that's a mechanically operated reinforcement, Nebeba. So let's wait and see. Gentlemen, I want us to focus on galamsey. Yesterday, there was a statement from, I think, the Forestry Commission, saying that people are underestimating or not understanding that there's a lot of work going on, and we try to, trivialize it. So they put out a list of the things that they've been doing, but I'm linking it to the call from activists advocating that these excavators that have been seized should be burnt. And I know that the strategy from this administration is that they're going to use these excavators to track the perpetrators, these criminals, these murderers who are polluting our water bodies. And I want to read that statement here. It says, Forestry Commission sets the record straight on anti-illegal mining forests. And the Forestry Commission has noted with concern recent media statements that undermine the significant achievements made through the collaboration of efforts of the Ministries of Lands and Natural Resources and Defense in combating illegal mining in forest reserves. And since they've been in office, they said they've seized 55 excavators, 3 bulldozers, 3 pickup trucks, 4 pump-action rifles, 11 motorbikes, and other mining equipment. Should we be banning the excavators? I think is a question we should ask.
I don't think we should be banning the excavators. I mean, excavators can be used for many purposes. If they are seized because they were used to commit an illegality, all the time you have properties or proceeds that are things that are used to commit crime or proceeds from crime are seized. If somebody is committed of drug offenses, their money, buildings are seized, tax evasion and all that, and they are put to good use. I don't see why we make an excavation when it comes to galamsey too. I mean, road construction and other things. We use excavators. We are not a country that is overflowing with so much abundance that we can afford to burn excavators. Does it serve as a deterrent to people who are doing galamsey? Maybe, but weigh the two. Does the community need the excavator for land reclamation purposes, for road construction and all that? Yes. We don't have the resources. I mean, we don't even have a ladder to go and put out a fire, and then we are going to burn an excavator.
You know,
I differ.
Once bitten, twice shy. History, this country, will show us that these excavators can magically disappear.
It's true.
You know?
It's
so
true.
perhaps that's what they're trying to prevent. If you bend them, then they don't magically disappear and appear on another water body or in some forest somewhere where same reason why we're trying to seize these excavators.
And it comes back to what Apia Dankwa said about decentralization. Because our problem here is orders from above. And sometimes there's no order from above. Sometimes there isn't even any above. So the excavators are parked there. Somebody comes, orders from above. They say you should take 2 to go and do this road construction. And then they go and use it for galamsey again. We have to strengthen our decentralization. The community should be in charge. And when the community fails, there should be naming and shaming. We have naming and shaming when it comes to individuals. This politician has done this, this businessman has done this. No, but this community has done this. This community has failed. Let's get down to the constituency level. Let's have a ranking. Oh, your constituency, you are not doing well in this. You are known for galamsey. You are known for truancy. The children are not in school. When we have that, then you yourself, you feel like contributing to your neighborhood to give it a good name. When you go to other countries, it's like that. There are certain areas that are mentioned that if you come from, people laugh at you. I mean, abroad, they're like, oh, this neighborhood, you are not serious people. You are known for drugs. You are known for this. We should stop going. We should stop the personal attacks. We are obsessed with personal attacks. Bring this person down. Let's go for community attacks. That one, we are all in it. So we all we unite to bring our communities up. And then when our communities are not looking good, we unite to see what we can do about it. So it all boils down to this.
And I mean, while we are also discussing galamsey, I keep, watching what's happening there in Kumasi, and it looks like the fire will probably raise down that whole building.
Oh, yeah.
By the time we are there with what ladders or whatever it is we need. It's really the fire is really going at it.
And it's just 2 floors. It's not like it's 20 floors. It's just 1, 2.
And they may have to demolish it afterwards because there are structural.
No, I'm joking. You see, you just understand some people.
And this somebody's savings, somebody's.
Oh, Charlie,
I mean,
business.
Yes.
We don't have a country. I'm telling you.
We have a country.
I'm telling you.
You can't say that. We have a country.
We don't have a country. I give a simple example.
A sovereign state.
I give a simple example.
Independent, self-reliant Ghana.
I give a simple example. We all know, all of us, we all know that May, June, there'll be heavy rains. We all know.
Yes.
We've always known that. I can predict that come May, June, human beings will be displaced. Come May, June, people will die. Come May, June, there'll be disasters. We'll come and sit here, the 3 of us, and make beautiful discussions, and nothing will happen. And every year it will happen. Are we serious?
You know what these discussions do, though?
Well, I'm not undermining.
They help bring funding, but it's what the monies are used for. Because we get a lot of foreign funds, donations to help fix up streets, flooding issues, and the rest. And where does the money go?
It goes into Range Rovers and excavators, 700, and what was it?
And I want your reflections on galamsey, excavators to be bent.
Another example of, we are joking. The excavators, do they have the mind of their own to work? Do they have the mind of their own to work? The problem is not the excavators. The excavators are not the problem. We should stop. You see, we are so fixated in the nonsensicals. The problem is the human being. See, that's the problem. Excavators can't work.
Yeah.
You understand?
It's like another tender has arrived. Perhaps this is the reinforcements that they called for. Hopefully, this is well equipped to reach that top floor, which is just 2 floors, really, of that building in Edunkumase.
Have you heard of situations in Ghana where they go and then they say they don't have water? See, original, when they originally planned, when the British left Ghana, so when you go to the old towns, the old suburbs, like the Mampubis, the Latibe, every house has a water hydrant.
Yeah.
In the new Accra that we, the Ghanaians, developed.
It's true.
Do we still have the water?
We don't even have water in the first place.
Do we even have water in the first place? We are joking. We don't have a country. We are joking. We just pray that nothing serious happens. This is just 2 floors. It is just 2 floors. You understand? You back to the excavator.
Yeah, but before we get to the excavator, you see how many people are on the streets? They've blocked access, the access for the car to really move around. Why do we like gathering around to just look on when things are happening? Especially when we have disasters. Clear off so that the van or the tender can move freely.
I don't want to see.
They want to see what?
I don't want to see. Even the rules, you see, so in serious jurisdictions, they deliberately structured their road architecture such that the fire hydrants will have unhindered access to this one, because sometimes how swift your response is. As in Ghana, how do you structure our rules? Even then.
I do see a ladder there. I'm just hoping that they can actually quench this fire, because it's not a good look.
How many floors?
People should clear off so that the vehicle can get access. No, like clear off the road.
They've been there before the fire.
They were there before the fire.
They've been there all the time. Go to Accra, on the road. Have you not seen those ones?
But they're there because they want to see how all this unfolds.
It's a center.
It's a what? Prof, are you being sarcastic right now?
Go to
how many?
Yeah.
The road is blocked.
Yeah, even in the way we construct our roads. You understand? And that's why I keep on saying the problem, one problem in this country is one of leadership. That's enforcement. Same with the galamsey issue. The people we give power to lead are scared to lead. We give them power to lead, and they are scared to lead. So last year, Speaker Bagman says something that, listen, I will give you when you are lying, or was it last year or this year, when there was confusion about the counting of the election results. He said something that, listen, that that the leaders are being led by us. People we have given power to lead are scared to lead. Because this galamsey issue, the reason why because you see, the president has all the power. The people, they have all the power. But they are afraid to use their powers, and so they will conveniently shift the problem on excavators. Excavators, can they work? It's not human beings that work, that control the excavators. So the problem is the human beings. They must just give leadership, just enforce the law. That's all. And don't be shifting the blame on excavators.
You all agree that our problems in this country can all be traced to one, which is leadership.
100%.
We have a leadership problem in this country.
A fundamental leadership problem. Okay. I'm telling you.
In the few months that this administration has been in office, would you say that their approach to dealing with galamsey is commendable? Because I just read what the Forestry Commission said about undermining their efforts because they've seized 55 excavators. Meanwhile, the ask in the lead-up to election 2024 was declare a state of emergency, revoke all mining licenses in the forest reserves. I think halt mining on the water bodies and so on and so forth. That was when Ghana Water Company was reporting 70%, under 70%, which was already a deficit anyway. So if we were to assess the Mahama administration this few months, what they're doing, it says joint efforts by the ministries of lands and natural resources and defense and all that, trying to tackle this menace. Prof.
Let's
be real. Are they doing what we need?
Comparatively,
ambitious, quite ambitious, but it repeats the mistakes of the past. We've gone through this line before. How many excavators were not seized, bent? Then some were stolen and all that. We heard those stories. They are coming back to the same issue. In fact, we'll give a fair assessment of this administration in the coming weeks, after 120, and to be part of the things that we're going to discuss. Season of excavators. Would it be a solution to our problem? And my good brother said, look, the excavators, they don't work. We bring them from the port. What are we doing to those people who allow those excavators to come into the country? When they are bringing them, don't we have the purpose or the use for the usage of the excavator? We know. Can they give an account of those excavators that have been shipped into our country and what the locations? We don't even know. We have seen about 2 different attempts by this administration. In the manifesto, said they're going to use AI to solve galamsey issue. A week ago, we saw some people doing some jogging, training.
Blue water guards.
Blue water.
Yes, but that's
going to guide are we serious?
You see the dancing on Friday. Let's take it down
when I saw that,
did you see the dancing and jubilation? Some of these blue water guards were dancing, and I thought to myself,
no, I thought it was a joke. When I saw, I thought it was a joke.
Oh no, but no. I agree with the two of you.
No, I said when I saw,
I agree with the two of you.
No, you agree or
you need to
disagree?
confirm.
I disagree with. You see, have you seen American warriors going before they go to war?
Oh no! We are not.
Canada is a serious country.
No, but okay. No. I think the point the point I'm making is, if these were military officers who were handpicked or selected, select the top of these security officers and say, okay, you are the best of the best. Let's give you some extra training, because we're dealing with people who have sophisticated weapons, right? Let's give you some extra training, some weapons that can match the ones that these illegal miners have. Then I know that we are making headway. You just handpick young men and women and say, let's give them some swimming lessons, let's give them some physical training, and then put them on our water bodies to protect our water bodies. I don't think that's what we need.
So in the Second World War, the greatest war ever fought, as in people were private people, as in civilians were conscripted.
Yes.
That's always what happens. You understand? In that major war, and they were led by the military people. How do you? And so in this effort, yes, the top of the notch military men are there, but because of the size of this battle, you need to conscript people and train them and give them leadership.
This same military, our government is reporting to us that they cannot enter forest reserves because illegal miners have seized and they cannot match their weapons. So if the military has failed, you're saying young men and women will be conscripted, like you're saying.
That's what the government told us. I can tell you that they didn't send any serious military. I'm telling you, like I said, the old regime, it was all about doing something to represent something. You see, if the military will have the courage to come and see how the government itself undermine their efforts.
This thing is getting worse and worse.
Oh dear.
Looks like the fire is dropped down. Now it's burning things that they were trying to remove from the building. Oh. And looks like individuals are trying to salvage little goods there to prevent them from total, oh my goodness.
I'm afraid for their lives. We have electricity poles.
Yeah.
And everything
there's a danger there because, you know, remember that explosion at Sapiati and the rest? Yeah. People gather around. And the danger is that these things can explode. Yeah. You know, it has ripple effect. It can explode more, and then individual lives can be in danger. So, we shouldn't be doing this.
So where's Nadmo?
Well, hopefully you're seeing this and you can also respond to this.
We can use those people who are doing the jogging, the training.
The blue water.
What's the name? Is it blue water?
Blue water initiative.
Are we serious?
Blue water guards.
Are we serious?
Now I want to hear you out, Prof.
No, but my colleague did the job for me.
No, but the blue water issue, let's give them the benefit out, because it could be that they are using the youth from the areas to be like a neighborhood watch on galamsey. They may not necessarily be there to attack or to stop. You see,
my brother,
it could be because you need boots on the ground.
I think that if they're fire tenders, at least they can start quenching the fire down there. Otherwise, it just keeps spreading to the adjacent buildings, and it keeps going and going, and the area that the fire is affecting just keeps increasing.
This is so sad. Look at the young man with his hands on his head.
We'll be concentrating. So even in terms of the numbers, they are not enough. So the people themselves have to. That's what I mean by we don't have a country.
No, but there are fire tenders there right now as we're speaking. And well, I don't know what the strategy is.
It's true.
It's actually spreading. We don't have
He's right. We are not, because in other countries, you could have a helicopter coming to drop, during the Palisades fire.
Yeah.
I mean,
look, and then their fire service is so decentralized because in the commercial area, there should be, like, in Central Accra, there's a fire service right at the center.
Yeah.
But even they don't have equipment and because of the lack of fire hydrants, no water. You understand? There should be a fire service in every community.
Exactly.
If we are serious.
Yes.
There should be a fire service in every community.
So we need to ask the local authorities in charge of Edu, because we shouldn't always blame the fire. We should look what did they do about it.
That's not remember proper decentralization.
That explains why we have to pray every day, Ghanaian. Every time we keep praying, because the basic things are not well implemented. I mean, look at this.
Leadership.
We are talking about
leadership.
No, I mean, that's what people we keep praying every day, because it's a country that you have to pray every day, because you don't know what will happen the next.
We don't
all about galamsey.
I know some countries who don't pray as much as we do. They don't organize national prayers and national thanksgiving and national whatever. Recently, you heard the Speaker of Parliament was saying that they need to exercise the chamber because of something there. In the first few weeks of Mohammed's, when he first assumed office, he also said that we should pray and fast for the country. Prof, he also saying we should pray.
Oh, no.
Looks like when all else fails, all else have failed.
I didn't say we should pray. I'm saying that
prayer.
it's good to pray. But the point is that every time, any activity, you have to pray, because you don't know what will happen to them. I'm not asking for the fact that we should pray on every issue. No.
It's like you can do your bit, but your neighbor, I mean, has not done his or hers. So
it's tragic that we are watching on as this fire just keeps spreading and spreading to other buildings and destroying things. It's really tragic that we are watching on. But let's get on to, let's do some other newspapers. There's a story in the Daily Graphic that I know Prof is itching to reflect
Daily
on.
Guide.
So let's start there.
Well, on the SM Daily Guide, AG OK raid on ex-government of Ghana issue. But I'll pick the one, SML disrupted petroleum cartel tax evasion system.
But that's a story.
And that's why he drew my tissue.
That's a story.
In fact, we, as a country, have been struggling with revenue. And if you look at the previous budget and the one that we published this last week, revenue streams are about 7. Taxes on income and property, taxes on goods and services, grants, refund, others, and the rest, about 7 areas. So any time we have leakages, I have a problem. We've been championing for PPP, private partnership, over the period. What it means is that the government has to spend 2 cities, and someone comes in and says, I won't let you spend 2 cities, I'll bring 1 city. You two bring 1 city. What it means is that the 1 city to be spent by the government is kept and be directed or diverted to another project. It gives a government a breather. So I support the PP all the time. This company, the SML, we know, signed a contract with the old administration to 2019. Prior to that, in the country, the revenue, GRA, and then mining companies, GRA, mining, and then there's about 3 areas, ports as well, were given the power to collect revenue. And before that, we're losing, in terms of the petroleum product lines, almost about 2.3 billion per period. In terms of revenue losses, it was about 3.4 billion. Averagely, we're losing per month from January to December, but 283 million average monthly. That's how much a country we're losing. So this company took over, trying to install other things to reduce the losses. And 2021, 2023, GRA revenue rose to, I think, 1.2 billion. And the investigation teams were put out. One GRA did the investigation, the KPMG reports, and then I think a Parliament Committee on Energy also did. They vindicated them that they didn't find any wrongdoing. Today.
But who was it that found out that they weren't even paying their taxes or something? Forgotten the details of that, but go on.
Well, today we've seen a lot of, they were also mentioned in the ORA, same organization. And we've seen, Petra, a lot of things being said about this same organization. I don't have a problem. If you have an issue with an institution, you can either go to court or do an audit or publish what you've seen. But if you keep doing this and tarnish the image of such organization, the next time when you are calling for people to come and join the government to support, they'll have issues. They won't join. They'll have problems. When I'm looking at the financial part of other transactions, I have no idea. Legal issues in terms of how the contract was awarded, I have no idea. But I'm looking at how much government over the period we're losing and how much we'll be able to save by this same organization. So it was a piece that I put out there, and a lot of media attention has been on this for the past 2 days, a lot of calls. But we will do another extension of this, looking at how much we have realized as a country when they took over. I did analysis from the period before the contract was awarded, and then we can do it afterwards.
Because you mentioned oral, there's a story I want us to reflect on before we get back to the newspapers. We know that the home of the former Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, was raided. And it's interesting, it's curious that they disabled the record, like
the CCTV.
CCTV. That's if you're going to a person of interest's home and you have good intentions, you have a warrant. It means that you're there for specific reasons. And if you have no ill intent, why do you remove the very thing that could prove that you didn't do anything wrong there? Now they're talking of some 10,000 CDs that was on the bed that is missing. It makes you look like you're, for national security operatives, there's some sort of pedestal that's, you're elevated to that level. And then to be hearing that after your raid, this man is missing 10,000 Ghana cedis. I mean, how much is 10,000 Ghana cedis that we should be saying national security officers probably made away with that money? And then we had that press conference led by Apenyo Markin. But I want to take your quick thoughts on that. As a citizen, I know that it is very wrong for you to enter a person's home and do all that and claim that because it was done when the former administration also left office. If we continue that tangent, we are creating that system where if next 4 years, in a likely situation that the NDC is out of office and the MPP comes in, you've sort of empowered or enabled them to also chase you and enter your homes and evade your privacy like that. I think we should be condemning such acts, and we should be asking the right questions. Do they have a warrant? What exactly are they looking for? What is the crime that this man's home will be raided for? Quick thoughts on that.
I agree with you. Without you station position, I agree with your position. As in this Rambo style, every change of government, it doesn't help anybody. And you see, we said we were resetting. That means we are resetting our mindset. We are resetting how we do things. We are resetting so that we create the right political culture. That one can guarantee us the rule of law. I've heard that the agency said that they give warrants, but they didn't give them warrant to go and destroy his property. Because the CCTV camera, it's his property. You understand? And it undermines anything you do there. You understand? Because what the warrant simply does is that you had the legal authority to go there to do what? To go and search, not to go and destroy his property. Yes. And also, the kind of signal you are giving out there to the people of Ghana. So listen, I agree with you. I know you didn't directly condemn, but the indirect condemnation, I'm making it direct. And I agree with you. I agree with you on all fours. This must end. As in, we can't create a country where, because of change, we need a reset. I believe Ghanaians support and endorse that reset. But that certain aspects of the reset must be looked at.
To think that the majority speaker apologized to Ghanaians at some point, and then this happens again. I think it's terrible. It's a terrible look on us as Ghanaians and the way we are, handling change of government.
It's
we
untenable.
don't do that anywhere.
And so I'll call on the leadership as in do proper research. We don't want this kind of research.
Kwame Nkrumah, what do you make of this?
You know, when it comes to powers of arrest and powers of search, it can be done in the way it was done if you believe a crime was being committed and that maybe there is no time to go to court to do that. The AG said it was authorized by them. I'm sure further details would come out. I've also read that the CCTV was dismantled because there's some evidence in it that could be used to prove commission of crime. But unfortunately, to the same dismantling of the CCTV, if indeed incriminating things are found there, the defense lawyers for the BOG governor can say that was planted by you.
Yeah.
You understand me? So in our zeal to maybe do justice, I think yesterday I heard, yesterday a few days ago, the former Auditor General, Mr. Domelevo, saying that in our zeal to do justice, let's make sure we don't do injustice. I mean, he summed it up perfectly. And I understand the zeal to do justice now, but we should always look at the bigger picture. I'm sure as time goes on, we will understand why this was done. But I mean, it seems a bit distasteful. I mean, for especially the BOG governor's wife, what does she have to do with it in the early hours having a... Well, it hasn't been established that the 10,000 jewelry was taken, but I think the CCTV should have been left there. In the developed countries, the police carry dash cams, they carry body cams. Everything is transparent for everybody to see. And I think the Deputy Attorney General, I know him, very competent lawyer, so I'm sure the AG's panel will be able to come out with a good explanation. But until then, I think the national security should be called to order, because national security over the years, not party specific, party come, party go, NDC come, NPP come. The national security has not had a very good image.
Can you guys watch on the screen for a second and see how firefighters are fighting this fire? And I saw that they're trying to remove the things from all the other, the adjacent building as fast as they can, because it looks like the fire is spreading. But we can tell you for a fact now that that fire that's engulfing some buildings at Edum, Kumasi, is spreading to other shops. There are fire tenders on site, and they're doing the best they can with what they have to quench that fire. Gentlemen, we spent a lot of time this morning on this fire in Galamsey and other stories, but we have to wrap up now. So maybe you can do the stories on the front pages, quick reflections, and
So the custodian says what? Stop national security raids on ex-appointees. I think I've said my bit on it.
Yeah.
No need to. Natoshi gives full support to successor. G40 policy ensured stable fuel prices. Hassan, so go for your policy ensure stable fuel prices. Okay. I didn't know we had stable fuel prices. Okay.
Actually, that is the opposite argument that this administration is making, which is why they sort of cut off its legs from under it.
Exactly. Okay. Address of food dragged to MPP Disciplinary Committee. I think I've had my bit on it too. Okay.
The Ghanaian publisher, stories on the front page.
The Ghanaian publisher, dear Manasi Azuri, if I were you. Then we have a story, Stop Your Hawks, now, Afenyo Markins tells Mahama. Natoshi Bak's successor, and that's what my colleague mentioned, attend his vetting. MPP drags Taifa Beyonce. I like the description. Taifa Beyonce's joint committee.
And the news center.
The news,
the Daily Guide.
I think
we did the SML story.
Yeah, I've done the SML. Then there's something on Okatachi Afrifa, how and why national security picked Okatachi Afrifa. And then the other story that ties into the publisher, MPP initiate disciplinary action against Adjoa Safua. Yeah.
Okay. And then the news center.
We have MPP refers Adra Safo to disciplinary committee, warns party members. AMA launches phase 2 of Youth Climate Action Fund, invites applications. ASG to invest in Valco to modernize infrastructure, build alumina refinery. 10,000 Ghana sees jewelry missing after raid on Dr. Addison's home. Rhetoric can't solve Dumso and Kumasi, Collins Adomako. And I think I saved the best for last. Now Toshi rallies support for incoming DACF administrator. It's always heartwarming to see people from opposite divides welcoming each other. At the end of the day, it's about the country. It's not about the party. The party is a means to an end. The end we want is a prosperous country. That's it for the news center.
Thank you, gentlemen. If you can answer this for me in 30 seconds each, we'll be out of here. My producer and director, please allow it. If you were to implement one strategy, one initiative that will propel Ghana from this level that we are playing and operating and talking about development issues to, should I say, global standards, or away from the small things like fire tenders, unable to, you don't have equipment to actually reach second floors to quench fires, issues of galamsey excavators, and all the issues that every day pops up here and there, like gagging people and all that. If we were to implement one strategy, what would it be? One thing that sort of propels us to the next level, what would that be?
A great transformational plan. GTP.
Thank you. Say no more, Prof.
I think we need to change our mindset.
Mindset. Attitude, no change in mindset. Come on, Kroma.
In the short term, I mean a lot of long term. In the short term, I think empowering the private individuals by access to interest-free loans. We have a lot of people with great ideas that can revamp the economy so much that the concentration on politics will be less when the individual is empowered, is wealthy, is prosperous. And I think access to interest-free loans is one way to go.
That there
Both of there is in the GTP. That's what they said.
Yeah, so the GTP here. I was hoping that they'll pick some things from, this administration will pick some things from the GTP. But folks, our guests who join us for the news review this morning, Andrew Appiah-Dankwa is spokesperson for the Movements for Change, which explains why he says the GTP. Kwame Nkrumah-Botsio is General Secretary of the CPP, and Professor Isaac Boydi is Dean, Accounting and Finance at UPSA. And before we go, Ghana, let's talk about water tanks. Do you know the secrets to real water storage? It's simple. If your tank doesn't have the tortoise on it, then it's not the correct tank. That's right, the tortoise tank, Syntex tank, is a champion of water tanks. It is strong and durable and built to handle our Ghanaian weather. Rain or shine, Syntex tank has got your back. So go outside, check your tank, and if it doesn't have the tortoise on it, it's time to upgrade. Join the Syntex tank family today and enjoy water storage that's tough like a tortoise. Give us a call now, 0244 335 168 to buy, or find one of over 400 agents nationwide. You can also shop online at syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, a strong, a tough. Remember, the AM show is sponsored by Waylead Properties. We take a break. The show continues when we return. Well, we need an update on everything happening in terms of fires. And yesterday, we know that a fuel station was razed down after an explosion in Teshi, a suburb of Accra, destroying vehicles and commercial structures. And there was also a fire outbreak at Kokomemle right here in Accra. And then this morning, we are hearing of the fire outbreak, which is actually on your screens right now, happening right now in Edum Kumasi. And on Zoom this morning, we want to engage the public relations team for the Ghana Fire Service. DO1 Alex Kingnate joins me right now. Alex, thank you so much for making the time to speak to us. We've seen what we are seeing right now. What is the latest information you have on the fire happening right now in Edum Kumasi?
Our officers
Alex Nate, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. I was saying that, what is the latest information you have on the fire outbreak happening right now in Edum Kumasi? In the short time of about 30 minutes that we were sitting here for the news review, we saw the fire move from one building to the adjacent one and down. What is the latest information you have? We were told that they were waiting for ladders.
So the ladder is currently in. Our officers currently have 5 fire tenders drawn in from different parts of Kumasi, including Ejiso, Apachapa, and then Tech, all currently at the scene working so hard to make sure that the fire is contained. The unfortunate thing is that looking at how close the buildings are situated, it is making the spread quite rapid. But we are doing our best to make sure that we tackle the fire and prevent it from further spread, so that we'll be able to extinguish the fire finally. And Alex, I mean, also you can, I stand corrected, these cranes or ladders, I'm looking for an explanation as to why these fire tenders that arrived on the scene in the first, the first time, didn't have the ladders to quench the fire as soon as possible. And they had to wait on reinforcements before they can start reaching all the way up there. And this is just a 2- or 3-story building. What's the explanation there? It's actually a 3-story building. And so what happens is that we've always bemoaned our lack of logistics. And so within the whole of Ashanti region, we have just one turntable ladder. That is the ladder that we use to be able to get to height. So it has to do with proximity. Alex, are you saying the whole Ashanti region has one crane ladder? Yes, turntable ladder. The same with Accra, the same with Tema. We all have just one ladder that's to get to that height. So the first appliance that was closer has to get there, and currently as we speak, the turntable ladder is there fighting the fire. This is tragic. We know that you just got a new fire chief, but since you started speaking up about the lack of equipment or inadequate equipment in the Ghana Fire Service, have they done anything about it yet? Oh, yes. We've had assurance from the Honorable Minister, Honorable Musaka, assuring us that within a short time, they are making provisions for new fire tenders for us. Again, our chief fire officer, in an engagement with her, has firmly assured us that as part of her commitment in taking over the realm as the chief fire officer, she's going to prioritize the procurement of fire tenders to help us in our performance of our duty. So as of now, we are making do with what we have, pending, the arrival of these fire tenders, which we are hoping will be timely, looking at the spate of fires we are recording nationwide. Alex, before we go to what happened in Teshi, I want your opinion on this, your expert opinion. The way people were gathered around there, watching on, looking on as the fire razed down those buildings and even the adjacent building, at some point it came to the floor and we saw people moving to salvage whatever goods were in those sacks that we saw. Is there a way we can avoid this? Because I know for a fact that sometimes these fires explode and human beings' lives are put in danger. What do you think about what we saw, how human beings were just standing around very close to where the fire, the fire was? It's a very unfortunate situation that people keep interfering in firefighting. They try to salvage, but what they don't realize is that the more they get close to things like this, the more they put themselves in harm's way. These fires keep dropping, and you realize that a lot of these shops have tarpaulins all over them. And once the fires trickle down and they fall on these tarpaulins, that is where the fire spreads. And so as they are down there, the fire can easily fall on them. Again, with the building being subject to this amount of heat, it tends to probably make the building a bit weak and can make parts of the building even fall off. Our men are in helmets, but these civilians are not. Our men are protected to an extent, but these civilians are not. That's why we always make sure that, and we always prioritize them, making sure that they don't get close to the scene since they are not well protected, but their adrenaline runs high, and that's why we follow on our colleagues, the Ghana Police Service, to help us with controlling them and keeping them away.
Now, yesterday, we saw that a fuel station was also raised after an explosion in Teshi. What do we know as we speak that started that explosion, and what is the latest update on that as well?
Well, it happened yesterday where a gas fuel station, from what we gathered, is the Gao or this unauthorized fuel station. Unfortunate thing is that they are not even supposed to be situated so close to where people settle. But then they are settled, and a vehicle was bringing gallons of petrol, which they intend to sell. So as the vehicle had brought the gallons of petrol and were offloading this petrol, it caught fire. And so it burnt the car, it burnt the fuel station with 2 pumps there. The office of the fuel station was also burnt. A drinking bar just behind the office was burnt. A provision shop was also partially burnt. And the barbering shop close by was also partially burnt. Looking at the close situation of these shops, we had to make sure that we contain the fire from further spread. There was a school close by with school children in there. We had to make sure that the fire does not even spread to that school also, and then be able to protect lives and property. So yes, now there was some damage, but we were able to salvage a lot more and protect human lives from any harm.
Ediowan, please stay with me. I'll go to Nana Boachidankwa-Yadom, who is a multimedia journalist on the grounds for us. But do we know what started the fire? I think the Love FM producer was telling us, Eugene Osetutu was telling us that it's suspected that it was the power fluctuations that started it. What do you know?
That's what we are also hearing, but it will help us in our investigation. But then again, we're also subjected to investigation to confirm or ascertain the veracity of this, whether truly is that or maybe something might have happened. So we are not being comfortable with that claim. We are looking into it, to be sure.
All right. Thank you so much. Don't go away yet. I want to engage Nana Boachidankwa-Yadom. Nana Boachidankwa-Yadom, thanks for joining us. I understand you are boots on ground for us at Edum Kumasi, where that fire is raising down some buildings. Talk to us. What can you report?
Early Friday morning, they are unable to make sales because fire has been spreading rapidly and getting closer to where they make their sales. And so this is what you can see over here. I have a trader here, and he's trying to interact and have a say as to what happened, transpired over the day. And then they see, oh yeah,
fresher. My name is fresher. Me fresh and calendar. Me fresh and come 4:30. Me see for manana muse jani dam. Jano kwane nzonu echodu se ben hanase baby e nyama nisino. Ida tomu de gu ye nyama nyina fresher.
Onyama na auto ni nyina ase. E den na wo hwa e de eja we baaye.
Timi nkire se me firi me kwa awa me fra twede to wona me de ba bedu a. Me kwa awa. Timi see for manana muse jani dam enya sam keto tu. The name nyina ablabo ni nyina de asi. E se de adu no mamu wa dia.
Onyama no hwa be the total worth will be like how much?
Say after master to almost 80-something million, ko be 100 million po. Me na mari 80-something million. After master to bra, after master kakra, ni ma 80. Afan say, afan so dia ka be yi kwa 100 million. Ase.
Okay. That's a pa ma yako. Na den na o hwa e betimi aboam se se de be ya jana beba form.
They say they do ne here fire service for. O ma ba ha nso ehu de ekọ. O ma ba ha sa nso ehu de ekọ. Me kwa me yale o me di bia na aba no you need to stand besi.
So you can see that right now they are paving way for the fire tender to move in to bring the fire down. That's the fire tender machine, and there are a number of them up there in front of the Hello FM building where the fire started. A number of them, about 4 machines are in front of the Hello FM building trying to quench the fire from that end. And a number of them are also coming to this side to quench the fire from this end. And you can see the trader. And these are very stranded traders at the KJTR market, saying that they need more fire tender machines to come in to quench the fire. you can see it's spreading rapidly.
Johnny Aduaha, Kumasi Central Market. I just thought to say that to Kumasi Central Market. I was at the whole Kumasi Fire Service Kanyana, at Muba, and you man Tamuna and your fear back. Rock of Faka back on a cabin. I was a carton. Now say to Muba, what's it? Market.
Okay. And you see that this is the Kumasi Central Market, KGTR Central Market, and blue light is in there. The other buildings are where they make shoes and sell shoes. The makers are all in there, and you can see the next building to Hello FM is also for other goods. And the traders who occupy all those shops are counting their losses. They are devastated and they are stranded because they've lost almost everything. It will be very difficult from the scenes here to get to see or to make out with anything whatsoever. It's very serious. This gentleman here, you work at the Blue Light.
Yeah, I work at the Blue Light. What I want to tell the fire service people is that we suffer to get money from Blue Light. Look at the loans. Some people, they have collected so many loans. Please, why is it that the fire service, you cannot just off the fire for us? Why?
It's difficult, they say, because it's spreading rapidly.
Oh, the fire is very massive. It started around 6 o'clock in the morning. They came here around 8 o'clock. Why should it happen like that? Why?
Okay, so that's a bitter trader. He's sad because, according to him, the fire tenders did not come here early to quench the fire when they called upon them around 6 a.m. when the fire had started. He works at the Blue Light, and Blue Light is just on my left. And on my left where Blue Light is, you can see that everything is gone. The fire tender machines are finding it difficult even to make it inside the Blue Light to quench the fire. Meanwhile, the frontage of Hello FM is also crowded as other traders are also moving out their goods for fear that the fire will spread into their shops. You can see that the traders are helping the fire tenders themselves, and the fire, just as we were saying, got to this end. That is what you see in your shots. It just got down here from up there, and it's now down here. The traders are helping the fire tenders to quench the fire from up to down, and it is very much important for all of them to come together to help quench the fire, because the rate at which it is actually spreading looks very serious and seems very, very dangerous. If care is not taken, the entire building would suffer from the spread of the fire. That is why they have to join the fire tenders, the fire service operatives, in quenching the fire from all angles. Just as I indicated earlier, the building next to Hello FM is where the fire started from around 6 a.m. The fire tenders, according to the traders, did not respond to their calls earlier. That is what the traders say led to the spread of the fire. The tenders also came in and they were unable to reach the top floor of the building where the fire started. There's a transformer here, and it will be very, very catastrophic if the fire gets to the transformer, because if it happens like that, everybody here might get electrocuted. So the traders and the fire tenders would have to come together to quench the fire from down here so that it doesn't get to the transformer. And from what you can see, it's just close, just very, very much close to the transformer. And my fear and the fear of other traders is that if it gets to the transformer itself, we might not see good scenes here at the Kumasi Central Market, where the fire outbreak is spreading rapidly. It's going all the way to the building downwards the Roman Hill, and we're told that there's blackouts, there's lights out, okay, to prevent any form of electric shock or any form of electrocution. But you can see traders still counting their losses. We would want to go in there to see the traders and also get to hear from them. Sad scenes, very sad scenes here. But you can see fire all over, from Blue Light to Hello FM, descending or spreading rapidly to the shops that are downwards Roman Hill. The fire, we've been told, started around 6 a.m. The residents or the traders tried their best to reach in the fire service as at 6 a.m. when the fire started, but they were unable to reach them. And you can see fire here. You just have to step on it. It's just sad to see that all the goods here, these are goods belonging to traders. You can see that they are unused goods. These are items that they have to sell. But now, from the look of things, they can't make sales with what we are seeing here. So they just have to be packing them to wherever they have to send them to. And just as we said, now the fire just came all the way to, it just gutted a building that was so innocent. That's what you see there. It's spreading. It continues to spread, and this time around you can hear sounds of desperation from traders, and it looks like the entire KJTR market is burning. It looks like the entire KJTR market is burning because from where I am standing, I can even feel the fire myself. That part you see up there was not even part of the places that got burnt, but because the fire is spreading, it has gotten to this part of the KJTR market. We would have to go back a little because it's very, very hot here, and the fire is felt within, even from afar. The traders continue to count their losses, some of them doing so well to move out their items, and it continues to spread. The shops are burning. Hundreds of shops are burning. Hundreds of shops are burning. A fire that started from a top building at 6 a.m. and as at now, 8:02 a.m., the fire is still burning. 2 hours now, fire tenders are unable to quench the fire that started from the top floor of a building. And that's what you see there. Fire all over the KJTR market, the central market within, and even from the blue lights where we indicated earlier, we can see that the fire tenders are unable to quench the fire. The tender that moved in to quench the fire from blue light has no water now. They've told us that they have to get water to fill that tank to make sure that they are able to quench the fire from blue light. Smoke all over the place. Earlier on when I was entering the KJTR market, I saw people who were suffering from the smoke, and traders who had called in for the ambulance service to come and join in helping the fire tenders because traders, some of them had fainted and they had to pick them up. A very serious situation this morning, this Friday morning in Kumasi, the Ashanti regional capital. The Kumasi Central Market is on fire. All parts of the Kumasi Central Market, all parts of Kumasi Central Market. So this place you see is part of the Kumasi Central Market. Hundreds of shops in there. Hundreds of shops are in there. Shops for various goods, various items, all burnt down. And the place is filled with smoke. So much smoke that it will be very difficult for us to even get closer. So they have water now. A new machine got in, so they are now quenching the fire closer to the transformer. So that's what you see them doing right now. The fire tenders are doing well. But even with that, the fire continues to spread to my left. And all the shops you can see on this building are being affected by the catastrophic fire that started at 6 a.m. this Friday morning. 2 hours after the fire started, the fire tenders are unable to quench the fire. It's sad scenes this morning in Kumasi, and this is very, very much sad because It started from the LOFM building, the top floor of a building next to LOFM. So the traders were expecting the fire attendants to be able to resolve that or quench that fire from the end. But because it was on the top building, the fire attendants were unable to get their machine up there to quench the fire. That delayed the process, leading the fire to spread widely to this ridge. Where you see now, it's even far, very, very far from where the fire started. But that tells you the severity of the fire that even began on the top floor of the building next to Hello FM. You see the fire attendants, I can say that they are lost. They are lost because the traders are pushing them here. They are also trying to do here. Everybody is trying to save his or her shop. That's what you see them doing. The fire attendants in their elements over there, doing so well to quench the fire. But this doesn't look like anything that is going to end soon because the gravity of it can be felt on ground. Looking at how it is spreading widely. So the camera will just pan up a little bit to see what is happening up there. The top floor of the K Mensa Enterprise building has now been affected by the fire. Everybody here who is a trader is frustrated, feels desperate at this moment because on a Friday morning, 6 a.m., getting to know that your shop is on fire doesn't look like any good news at all. The saddest news you can hear on a very Holy Friday morning, I must say. You can see that efforts are being made by the fire service operatives to make sure that they're able to resolve the fire from all angles. But clearly, what you see here is not what is actually, it's not the only part of the building or the only part of the market that's actually on fire. Where we are currently feels like the third block on fire. So the first block would be the one from Hello FM next to Hello FM building. The second one is that building that follows. The third is where we are currently, and it continues to spread and continues to spread. More dangerous is the inner perimeter or inside the market itself. So the more dangerous part is inside the market itself, where the fire service or the fire tender machines were unable to enter. So they could not enter that end or the inner perimeter itself, where there are hundreds of shops. Because the building is built or is in a square shape. So inside of it is where the machine was unable to enter. And that led to the wide spread of the fire this morning. We would have to go back because the smoke is very serious. We'd have to go back a little bit. Even much more, you can see somebody just so hurt. And then kafra. Onyema wa hanum say. Oh wow. Very, very serious. Just as I indicated earlier, the traders had called in for the ambulance service to also come and help them because a lot of them are also falling off. They are fainting, and this one here is really hurt from his leg because he was trying to help a trader or some of the traders take out their goods from their shops. Now the fire just fell into the streets. Now the fire is on the streets of the KJTR market, from the shops to the streets, and it looks like all of us would have to run away to save our lives. Fire all over Kumasi, fire all over the Kumasi Central Market, all over. And I must clarify that the new KJTM market building has not been affected. This is the central market. Opposite the phase 2 are hundreds of shops that have been affected by the fire. All the way from Hello FM buildings, the buildings next to Hello FM, to this part tells you that it is much more serious. It is much more serious than anybody could have expected. And smoke is all over the place. Smoke is all over the place. This is serious. Fire tender machines coming in. A number of them continue to come, but the fire, stubborn as it is, continues to spread. We're live on Joy, the Joy News channel, and you can see that even the contractors, this is the second phase of the KJTM market project that is stored. This is the second phase of it. That's what you see on your screens. And the contractors over there have also been supplying the fire tenders with water. Fear is that the shops around Roman Hill might get affected as well, because from the buildings to the street itself where traders had gathered their goods, all efforts haven't yielded results. Let's go back a little bit. And it's even cloudy this morning. Every shop you see here around the KJTM market is affected by the fire one way or the other. Directly or indirectly, they have been affected. Traders still making out with their goods. They are trying to save the items from being affected by the fire. Yam sellers, tomato sellers, Gary sellers, salt sellers are all affected. Shoemakers, dressmakers, tailors, all of them have been affected by the fire. Serious scenes here this morning at the Kumasi Central Market. We would have to move out from here. So where I am now is where the shoe sellers or the shoemakers normally ply their goods. And you can see that place or that portion very much affected by the fire. They cannot make out with any item this morning because everything is gone totally. The traders who are here have their shops here. See, they have to be taking their goods by themselves, their items by themselves. The little you can save you a lot. That is what they have to do. You hear them say, that is to say that the little they will be able to save can help them. And then I walk on. 5:30 na mo ase. E to ase. Ya fra fra fa se point intimacy ase. Ni ka fa se e ja nya nu ase. Mo bo abai. O ma ja ase kai be kai fu ezu we. E so ba kokra nim. Afa the machine to me operate. Machine to me operate. Now look at what's going on. E ja na fa nya akoyi. Ya better say who shop wa hanum say. Ya shop wa me nya shop wa. Me bo shop wa say. Ni nya ase. Ni nya ase. E ma o ya ko bibia be fine. Bibia be fine. That is a very stranded trader who says that his brother has a shop here, and as at now everything is gone, and all the shops here you can see have been affected by the fire. All of them, everything is gone. From where I am standing, you can see that everything is completely gone. Everything is gone. The shops, their items, everything is gone. The fire that started around 6 a.m., stubborn as it is, spread widely to this portion that was not affected earlier. And now the traders are counting their losses. The smoke makes it very difficult to even get to speak to any of the traders. And even looking at the fact that they are very much stranded, they don't want to speak to us. But you can see a number of the traders who are here in to support their colleagues, those who have not been affected. All of them are here. Those who are coming to buy goods and those who are selling the goods themselves are in here. That is the Otumfuo runabout. And you can see thousands of people gathered here, all of them in to see the gravity of the situation that we are talking about. Live on the Joy News channel, you can see police officers directing the traders to stay careful, and thousands of people who have gathered here. You can see a trader who is in tears. She is in tears because her shop has been affected by the fire. Very sad scene this Friday morning. Fire that started from a building next to Hello FM. The top floor was unable to get quenched by the fire tenders. Spread rapidly all the way to Blue Light, and it continues to spread to buildings or shops that are down to the Roman Hill. The Otumfuo runabout is very much crowded. Traders are here, buyers are here, suppliers are all here. Relatives are in to support, friends are in to support. And this is because one way or the other, their colleagues have been affected by the devastated fire that started around 6 a.m. at the Kumasi Central Market. Police officers are trying to control the crowd. One, to stop thefts, and two, to make sure that they do not get closer to the places that have been affected by the fire. Nico! So where we are, we have to be very careful because they are throwing items from top, and if we are not careful, it might fall on us. I'd have to find my way out. And you can see they are dropping items, phone batteries, phones themselves, to make sure that they do not get affected by the fire. Sad scenes at Kejetia Central Market. Very sad this morning. You can see the traders up there on the top floor. They just have to be dropping the items in their shops that have not been affected yet by the fire. Phone cases, phone batteries, phones themselves, phone chargers, all over. So a very crowded KJTR market today, and it's not crowded because people are in to buy goods, but because fire has made its way into hundreds of shops this morning. The cause of the fire is not known yet. A thorough investigation will be done about that. The security operatives are clearing this place, so we have to move out, but have to continue. We have to show you what is still happening here this morning. So all that you see from here at the KJTR market, very sad scene. The traders are going out with their items. Items running into millions of cities, have been affected by the fire. The fire tenders are still doing their very best to make sure that the shops that have not been affected do not get affected. Okay. These are traders, concerned traders, or worried traders, I must say, who are blaming the situation to the intermittent power cuts. That we cannot say as a matter of fact, because a thorough investigation would have to be conducted to make a determination or to ascertain whether or not it was the intermittent power cuts that led to the fire outbreak, or there's something actually that might have contributed to the fire. We have not seen, authorities here yet. We haven't seen the authorities here yet, but we are doing so well to make sure that when they get here, we'll be the first to speak to them. We have been told that the fire tender machines are coming in their numbers. From where we are, we have to be very careful. So, very unfortunate this morning. But this is what we are experiencing in Kumasi, the Ashanti regional capital. Fire, fire, fire. That is how it started. And suddenly, it has spread throughout to many shops in Edum. The fire tender machine just got in, another one just got in. This has to go into the other end where the fire just moved to. Clearly, an unfortunate scene in Kumasi. So, this is where it started from. The building in front of me, the Hello FM building, next to it is another huge building. On top of it is where the fire started from. And up there, the fire tenders were unable to solve or quench the fire. So it spread from that end back there and moved all the way to the other end.
A number of legislation have passed that promotes or gives incentives for testing medicines in children. Two of the famous ones passed in 2002, 2003 were the Pediatric Research Equity Act and the Best Pharmaceutical Act. I would say that if I talk about my trajectory of research on medicines in children that actually coincided with the passage of the BPCA and the PREA, Pediatric Research Equity Act. So that has been the history and the evolution of legislation and regulations that regularize use and testing of medicines in children. In Ghana, what we have is the Public Health Act, Act 851, which mandates the Food and Drug Authority to regulate clinical trials in Ghana. So Act 851 is, and the public health law is the act that regularizes conduct of clinical trials in Ghana. And Act 851 comes from the Public Health Act, which was passed in 2012, and is the law and the regulation that we have to date. So just to mention that many of the studies that we had done predated the Public Health Act to conduct clinical trials.
Welcome back on the AM show, and of course, quite some scenes in Edum Kumasi. We'll get back there later on the show. But this morning, we're asking, will you allow your child to participate in clinical trials? And why wouldn't you, if you had any reasons? And that is on the back of the conversation we're about to have in respect of the inaugural lecture of Professor George Obeng Ajay. This was actually held in January this year, January the 23rd, at the Great Hall of the University of Ghana. And we're going to be contemplating what we can look at when it comes to this enigma of carrying out clinical trials in children. Joining me for a conversation, Professor George Obeng Ajay. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Well, as we talk about the fire in Edum Kumasi, there's also a fire when it comes to, clinical trials in our country, and how sometimes, whether it's COVID-19 or whatever the case may be, we don't have sufficient numbers done in our part of the world sometimes. But this inaugural lecture and the topic you spoke on, paradigms and paradoxes, enigmas in clinical trials in Ghanaian children. Why did you choose to dilate on this subject?
Yeah, thank you. So as this topic, the words were chosen to reflect the fact that whilst there is a body of knowledge that specifies how clinical trials, which are defined as prospective studies, essentially done to evaluate safety and efficacy of interventions, health interventions, while there are specified paradigms within which these are done with respect to a specific disease or with respect to a specific medicine, one, we don't have enough trials done in children, and this state of affairs has resulted not from anyone's fault, but from a series of unfortunate incidences that occurred the last century that resulted in the paradoxical situation that children were excluded from trials. So you have a situation where the good intentions to safeguard children's health from being tested with new experimental drugs led them not having medicine being tested in children. So that was a paradox. I made a point that since my days as a young doctor, which is about 25 years ago, I have been involved in clinical trials and seen many children.
When you say involved in clinical trials, as the performer?
Yes, please. I have conducted trials as an investigator in different roles. Yes, and been supervised clinical trials of my mentees as well over the 25 years. Also, I've been involved in clinical trial. So I have also observed certain occurrences that were inconsistent with our prior assumptions or knowledge or bias, for want of a better expression, and at times defied even what we knew or had studied during our studies in medicine and practice of medicine. And I highlighted a number of these rare occurrences, and those were the instances that I refer to as enigmas. They are meant to let us reflect and think of what could have resulted in this, and at times give us hypotheses with which to design and conduct new studies. So they are useful experiences, all the same. Right.
Now, as director of the Center for Tropical Clinical Pharmacology and Therapeutics at the University of Ghana Medical School, especially tropical, that gets my interest because there are some diseases that are endemic to our region or to other tropical areas, and we have to deal with them. But like I said, when I started with COVID-19, sometimes even vaccine trials are conducted on people from other parts of the world, so we don't even know how we as Africans will react to them. How does that feed into this topic when it comes to clinical trials?
Yes. So the center where I have been working since 2009, I think 2009, 2010, thereabouts, started work there, has a mandate to conduct research and training on medicines that are used to treat diseases that afflict us, taking into consideration, as you have stated, the part of the globe where we reside. So the center's mandate actually is focused on this, and it's important. It has always been an important consideration to focus on the diseases that afflict our populations. Historically, indeed, in the 1970s, the center's work was focused a lot on the diseases that were prevalent at the time: schistosomiasis, onchocerciasis, and then in the 80s shifted more to malaria, rational drug use, and HIV. We conduct studies on HIV and nutrition and related.
In terms of treating all of these ailments, and it's good you've mentioned malaria. I mean, I lived in Cuba for a while where they've been able to eradicate malaria, but of course, in that part of the world, they have their own cocktails to deal with, including dengue fever, among others, Zika, among others. But when you come to our setting, you've given the historical antecedents of part of what led to children being excluded from some of these clinical trials. Why has it lasted this long? Why has it been so pervasive?
May I kindly, is the lack of studies or the lack of clinical trials in children? Was that a question? I'm just asking for.
I mean, the lack of clinical trials in children. Why has it, lasted this long?
Right.
Because we have had that scientific lag. Why has it lasted this long?
Well, that's why I made operative wording that no one's fault. So there have been a series of tragic incidences for the last 100 years, starting from 1902, which led to the promulgation of the a law that for the first time required that medicines be tested for their safety. Until then, nowhere in the globe was there written evidence, at least in modern times, right? And then that was preceded by a disaster that resulted in contamination of some vaccines that had been produced against diphtheria. Then 30 years later, when antibiotics or antimicrobials, sulfonamide, came into use, again, when somebody tried to dissolve the compound because it was an insoluble compound so that children could take it, he chose a solvent that is nephrotoxic or kidney injury, cause kidney injury and deaths in children.
Right.
30 years later, 1962, we know of the famous thalidomide incident that resulted in deformities in tens of thousands of children across multiple countries. That led to the promulgation of then the Kefauver-Harris Amendment 1962. And that seemed to be the regulation that prevented or that seemed to have put to a stop many studies that involve children. This resulted in the situation where Dr. Harry Shirky, a pediatrician, American Pediatric Association, made a remark that this situation is leading to a state where children were being therapeutic orphans. I personally don't like using
therapeutic orphans.
Orphans, yes.
That's an interesting term.
Yes, Dr. Harry Shirky. And that has been some reference point that seem to have galvanized now academics, professionals, government agencies. In the USA, 1994, they set up a pediatric pharmacology research network, actually as a result of agitation by practitioners who recognize clearly that many of the medicines that are used in practice have never been tested in practice. So on one hand, if you don't have medicine tested in a clinical trial and you in a certain population with a certain profile, but you need to use it, and that is done, and I made talk a bit about it, termed off-label drug use. Then, in theory, essentially, anytime you do so, then you are actually putting that person into an unofficial clinical trial. Because you need to have conducted trials before licensing. So, which means that you keep on conducting unofficial trials when this could have been done under more structured conditions so that we can obtain the necessary safety and efficacy evidence that we will require to license and to document the parameters within which that medicine should be used.
Right. Before I throw my next question, for those of you watching, we're also showing you some footage still from Edum Kumasi about what's transpiring there on the back of that fire, which has engulfed a number of buildings. As and when there are some updates, we'll intersperse our conversation with them. But that's some footage that we're sharing with you, side by side, the conversation we're having now. And you can see the smoke billowing from that high-rise building. Very unfortunate scenes that have greeted us this morning in respect of that fire. But coming back into the studio, Prof, what is the state of these clinical trials on children on the continent of Africa? Is our situation in Ghana that bad comparatively compared to some of the other, health jurisdictions on the continent?
Well, so maybe we should always aspire to head to where conditions are better.
I do acknowledge that, but I want to find out whether this is a general malaise on the continent.
Right. So on the global scale, even the countries or the places where we look up to, it is even still a problem. So if you want to translate that to Africa, then I think you can make a correlate.
Right.
Because this is even still a problem in the global north or the more developed economies, as depending on how you take this. Yes. So even in the UK, it was only in 2004 that they recognized the discipline pediatric clinical pharmacology as a specialty. We know that we have specialties, hematology, cardiology from the 70 years ago, organ specialists, almost any organ you can have a specialist, right? But pediatric clinical pharmacology was actually even recognized as a specialty in the UK in 2004. And in the UK, there are just a handful. So I believe you can do the case-by-case analysis. There aren't many people who focus or disciplinary focuses on studying medicines exclusively in children, generally. But the case is recognized.
Okay. If you look at the other side, in terms of dealing with children, the pediatricians will be there. But when it comes to this aspect, it appears there's a paucity of people focusing on that angle. And maybe we also need more medical professionals to go into that, right?
Precisely. I think you've spoken my mind. That is actually the advocacy That I intend to, yes. So correct, you've read my mind.
What are the numbers in Ghana currently, though, when it comes to that specifically? Do we have any?
Well, we clinical pharmacologists, from which we now have at times obstetric clinical pharmacologists, pediatric. In itself, we have just a handful. Generally, in many specialties, we don't have. But clinical pharmacology, we know ourselves.
You can count on two hands, right?
Maybe yes. Yes, so within clinical pharmacology, there is a paucity. Part of the reasons being that it is essentially an academic discipline. It doesn't lend itself so much to practice. You know, even within medical specialties, there are some that people tend to go more into private practice, they do well. And then some that usually you tend to work more in a facility because it doesn't lend itself so much. So even when it comes to this, it doesn't even, I wouldn't say so, because elsewhere they have clinical pharmacologists appointed in some district hospitals and regional hospitals in the developed countries. But it doesn't lend itself so much to such a differentiation. So people will tend to work as other specialty, either a cardiologist or some other specialty, whilst they pursue clinical pharmacology as an academic discipline in terms of the research they do and the teaching they do, and also making a lot of input into policy making on medicines and advocacy for medicines.
So unfortunately, on the back of that, we have this term, nomenclature you just brought to bear, therapeutic orphans, right? But getting to the substance of the matter, how crucial then are these clinical trials on children? In other words, I'm asking for the benefits that we've not got within this space of time where we've not actively conducted clinical trials on children. In other jurisdictions where this is prominent, what are the benefits?
The benefits are that, one, again, from first principles, by the tenet of modern-day evidence-based medicine, a medicine that is used must have been tested, undergone clinical trials is the mode via which a medicine is tested. So while this, I'm repeating myself, but I think it's for emphasis, while this is usually the case to a large extent in adults, it is not usually so in children, and the reasons I've given that, I won't repeat that. Now,
so even the bodies of children are not the same as those of adults. Their reactions are different, which is also why, for example, even if you're giving a specific drug to a child that you would give to an adult, the dosages and others are different, right?
Precisely so. And in my lecture, actually elaborated a bit on more on this. Part of the reason being, yes, what we call developmental, maturational, ontogenic, and physiological changes that occur.
That's a mouthful.
Yes, along the growth axis. So even amongst children, it is important to note, and I think it's self-evident, that a newborn is as different from a 17-year-old who is legally classified as a child, in most jurisdictions, but the body is like an adult almost. That is one. So within the childhood age, we have a heterogeneous spectrum from the neonate or newborn to the infant, to the preschooler, to the school-age child, to the adolescent, on one hand. Now, these age groups are distinct in certain respects. So there are maturational changes, the kind of enzymes that are needed to metabolize or to handle some of medicines develop at different stages. So even it might be different between a 2-year-old and a 10-year-old may actually show differences, even though they are both children. A situation that does not pertain so much in adulthood. We also cannot translate doses of medicines in adults based on a weight equivalent into children. So let's say an adult is 70 kilograms. If a child was a quarter of that, it doesn't mean that a child will take a quarter of the medicine. He may actually need to take more or need to take less depending on the medicine, because growth, as we know, is not linear.
I see. But this thing about weight, I think in the past we've done some of that. Drugs being dispensed based on weight, depending on certain categories. We've done that before.
And they are still doing, meaning that they have been evaluated and they are either age cutoff or weight cutoffs. So it's not a linear translation.
Okay.
So what that means is that it may be necessary at a certain weight to tailor off and give a flat dose. So let's say you read 20 kilograms, everybody above will read, yes, because when you increase it. So that distinction is that there may be a linear relationship up to a certain age or up to a certain weight, but beyond that, it may not necessarily hold like that. There, especially in the extreme cases in the newborn era, some of these enzymes are maturing very rapidly. So even in neonatal medicine, at times on a day-to-day basis, the same dose may not apply. And there are many medicines used in newborn therapeutics that you need to use a different dose or a different dosing regimen on a day-to-day basis. Right? And this is actually a correlate from some of these principles. Yes, so I'm not sure whether I've exhausted your question. Earlier on, I was going to go into another tangent, but I think...
No, you can go. You can go ahead, because I think at least you've addressed the issues of how important it is. I was going to ask how we remedy the trend, moving from here, from the academic standpoint, and you are doing that, from the practical standpoint, and I believe you're doing that as well, but how as a country we boost this, because it will not just happen out of nothing. There must be some consensus, policymakers, practitioners, academics, to ensure that we push forward on that. I know Noguchi is doing its own bit in some trials. I know WACBIP at the University of Ghana is doing its bit. But how do we focus on this? That was my next question.
Okay, fair enough. So we are one, as in most of these colleagues. We work at different directions, different focus. So it is great. You mentioned this very important institutions that have made a lot of contributions, healthcare delivery, research in many areas. So that is true. I, at the inaugural, advocated, and I am advocating for the establishment of a research.
And if you may just pause briefly for me, I'll come right back to you, but I see, just to avert the minds of our viewers, in case you just tuned in as well, that's the Ketia market fire, which has engulfed a number of shops in that market district, if you like, in Edum, Kumasi. And as you can see, another problem, all of these structures made of very flammable material, the roofing sheets and all of that, very easy to catch fire. And you see the billowing smoke. You can tell that the fire inside that building is just ferocious. That's an inferno. It's not just a fire, it's an inferno. It is out of control now. And later I'll give some dynamics, because sometimes I heard some people blaming the fire service and all of that. We should ask ourselves, how many fire tenders do we even have in the country? Last year there was an assessment, and even the Ashanti region is one of the regions with a larger number of fire tenders. But it is a sad situation. So when there's a fire, you may have maybe one tender in that neighborhood, and they may now have to call tenders from other communities to come forward, and within which time, disaster could have struck, like we are seeing it here. So that is the unfortunate incident. My heart is in my mouth in respect of the electricity cables, first of all, there, and some transformers. I saw some of the fire service, officers trying to douse a fire close to a transformer, because if it gets there, that means even worse problems. So that is the situation there. Keeping flammable items in market areas, blocking the area so that sometimes you can't even get to the fire. So if you just joined us, that is the situation there. We are bringing you side by side with our conversation in the studio with Professor George Obeng Ejay. And of course, The topic he delivered his inaugural lecture on: Paradigms and Paradoxes, Enigmas in Clinical Trials in Ghanaian Children. Please go ahead, Prof.
Right. So we're talking of institutions and advocacy, and my call to establish an institute or a research center, depending on how this may be called, that focuses on trials of interventions in children. Okay. That, I believe, is one way by which we can start. You build the structures, but not only, you also start training a cadre of younger colleagues so that you have a pipeline of people who have the expertise and experience and the knowledge to carry on these things. Part of the reason why this is also, earlier question is, it's not that easy also. So it's not like people have neglected studies in children compared to how they do it in adults. Overall, it's not easy to conduct studies in children for many reasons. They are logistic, they are scientific, they are ethical, there are practical reasons why this is not as straightforward. So all those coming together have contributed to the situation that we have. But you need to address it. So you have to address it in you have to have a sustainable approach that is also focused and intentional. Otherwise, another generation may pass without having somebody interested in it. It's just a path of maybe, if you want to state, people doing what they would like to do. So I think we should start by establishing the structures that in a focused manner pays attention to this. It's an area that is neglected, and that is maybe one good reason for which we can establish something like that. It is also known, evidence, that children who participate in trials tend to have better health outcomes, because part of conducting clinical trials, we are doing an FDA trial, they'll have to come and inspect, and whatever you write has to be timed and dated, and when you cancel something, you have to provide an explanation. So this is done very rigorously. A lot of paperwork, but that is for the good, so that the results are credible. So patients who participate in trials compared to those who do not, evidence abounds to show that they do better irrespective of whatever condition and the outcome. That is one. The third one may be on the basis of ethical, maybe moral. If clinical trials bring good, and indeed we have been speaking and making a case that it is a right of children to participate in trials, then every right comes with a responsibility. So we need to also build up an education to say that when medicines come and they have been tested to be and shown to be safe, it might also impose an obligation on us to try and contribute our own bit to make sure that the process goes on so that everyone benefits.
Right. So, Prof, taking your final words, I want to know what we should do. What is your call? What is your call to policymakers? What is your call to the academic community? What is your call to your own people? You are a part of all of these. What is your call? What should we be seeing? What actionables should we be seeing moving forward in the short term, medium term, long term?
Right, thank you. I think that's a good question. That's a good way to look at it. And in many of these things, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I gave a historical background and evolution. In the USA, for instance, in the 90s, they established the Pediatric Clinical Trials Network, which then is a low-hanging fruit. You don't have to start building structures, but you form a network of pediatric practitioners and all the practitioners who treat children with medicines or other interventions, and you start conducting studies. So that can be a good start. A national network that has a certain defined structure that ensures that the evidence that is gathered then is credible and can be used to feed into the policy-making process. That is one. Beyond that, medium term, you build up the structures, and part of that elsewhere, what they have done was also to try and integrate what we call the routine practice, because research and practice are different things. When somebody comes for treatment, they are not coming to be studied. They come to get their disease problem addressed, yes. So, but we recognize in clinical research that there is a thin line or there is an overlap between these two functions, right? So, and I teach students, I tell them two important things to remember. What is we call therapeutic misconception. Somebody comes to ask a participant in a trial and tell them that, oh, it's a better medicine, so it's good for you to, but it's wrong. That's therapeutic misconception. And the other one, we say clinical equipoise. There has to be genuine uncertainty. We cannot be testing medicines because we want to conduct trial. There has to be a genuine uncertainty that something, we need to show that something is better.
Right.
Those are two principles that we use, underpins many of the things that we do. So elsewhere, as I was saying, they have tried to integrate a practice in such a way that one can use the data that is obtained from routine practice to derive some of the information that we need about pediatric medicines that have not been licensed. It may be a long lecture to give, but for the many reasons why it is difficult to conduct studies, pharmacology studies in children, in adults, what this will involve will usually be taking about 20 blood samples, let's say, from one patient over a number of days, right? You can't do this in a small child. So there are methods that have been developed that uses either samples that are taken during routine clinical practice or scavenge samples from laboratory end or something like that. Right. And that is also the way to plan it. Beyond medium term, you need to put up a structure. And in this case, my call is that we don't always have to follow. In the 1960s in this country, Ghana was leading in many fronts: aviation, shipping, industrial. Many industries were set up in this country. There is a renewed interest in this on the global scale. And this, I believe, is an opportunity. I think I've read it in the papers that they want to make Ghana a pharmaceutical hub some time ago. This has to bring on board structures that allow the testing of the medicines that will be manufactured in a way that make them be recognized as internationally right. So this could be an opportunity in my case to actually put Ghana, our nation, forward in one area. We are always not following. We can lead in certain respects, and that's my call.
Well, that's an opportunity that we can take as a country. We have to seize the moment and make the most of it. But that has been our conversation with Professor George Obeng-Adjei. He is Director, Center for Clinical Pharmacology and Therapeutics, University of Ghana Medical School. And of course, he was also talking to us about the essence of clinical trials on children in respect of his inaugural lecture titled Paradigms and Paradoxes, Enigmas in Clinical Trials in Ghanaian Children. You can check it out on YouTube as well. Prof, we're grateful that you took time to join us this morning.
I'm grateful too. Thank you for the opportunity.
Stick and stay with us. We'll be back with more action, especially in reference to the situation in Edum Kumasi. We'll be right back. Well, here we are. We are back on the scene of that fire, that conflagration, if you like, which has taken over at the Ketia area. I'm talking about Edum Kumasi. And you can see there some conversations with some of the officers. I think that's an immigration officer, and maybe, I don't know whether that's a prisons officer, but police officers as well. We have, I believe I see the regional minister as well on hand. He is the one in the curry-colored dress, and fire service officials also trying to douse the fires. But we have our man on the beat. I believe it's Nanabwache Yadom. Nanabwache, what can you report so far? What's the scene or the situation on the ground?
That is what you see here. So, Benjamin, in your shot is Dr. Frank Kamwakohene, the Ashanti Regional Minister, who just got here with the National Security Operatives, the Ghana Police Service, and other market union leaders to ascertain the gravity of the fire that has spread widely to several shops in the Kumasi Central Market, or the business district, Edum, here at the Ashanti Regional Capital, Kumasi. The fire started around 6 a.m., spread widely. Even some say it started around 4 a.m. We're just waiting for the security operatives, the National Fire Service, to also give us the accurate details. But now, traders are counting their losses. Fire tenders and the fire service operators are doing so well to quench the fire. This is how severe the situation is. Fire all over the CBD, the inner perimeter of the Central Business District. It started from a building next to the Hello FM block, or the Hello FM building. The top floor is where the fire started from. It spread widely from that end to the entire building. Moved all the way to the Central Business District. Opposite of it is where it happened. The Regional Minister, Dr. Frank Kamwakohene, is in here. We would want to go down there so you can see for yourself the situation on ground. And you see the CBD very well crowded. Traders, buyers, suppliers are all here to console their friends and their relatives who have been affected by the fire. This place has been cordoned off by the security operatives, preventing entry because of the gravity of the fire closer to where we began our interaction from. And so the fire service in here, the police service, military, national security operatives, all of them are here. We are getting closer to where the Ashanti Regional Minister is, Dr. Frank Kamwakohene, where he's interacting with the traders and other people who have been affected by the fire. He came in with other important figures, including national security operatives. And he's coming out, the Regional Minister, in your shot, that's Dr. Frank Kamwakohene, who is in to see for himself what has happened so far. We are in the Central Business District, Edum. The RM is in here with the security operatives from the Regional Coordinating Council. All of them are in here. This fire is very serious and very severe. It swept through several shops after it started from one block, or first one floor to an entire block, moved all the way to several blocks, and now traders are counting their losses. Dr. Frank Kamwakohene and his team are in here to get to know for themselves what has happened so far. The RM, Frank Kamwakohene, is in here. We're live on Joy News, and he is going to the back end of the building that is very much affected by the fire. The place is very well crowded, and so movement is a little bit difficult. That is why you see shaky shots, but they all tell you the story of how difficult it is to be in the Central Business District affected by the fire outbreak this morning. Dr. Frank Amoakohene, I hear him expressing frustration and worry about the widespread of the fire. And the national security operatives are telling him about the situation. That's the national security operative with Dr. Frank Amoakohene, and he's narrating the situation to Doct.
Inside was steps.
And so I'm at the back of the national security operative who is narrating everything to the RM.
Steps in the one you say. Well, I had here safe, but Uko and Kakra, I want to ask Uncle Pierre phase 2 now.
So he just told him about the situation opposite the phase 2 of the KGTR market.
Too much because I also now.
All the way to the phase 2 opposite of it where the situation is equally worse.
Of course, now he's almost a beshi and no signage. Yes, so what you say?
They have to go back because of how severe it is at the back end. It makes it difficult for him to go there because the fire is still on, very severe. The smoke so serious that he cannot get there. The first part of the building that got affected by the fire is a little bit resolved or solved, but the back end is where the situation seems worse. The traders are angry. They are counting their losses, and they are trying to salvage some of their goods. That's a trader there. Dr. Frank Amoakohene very well worried about the situation.
They did well, but now
so he's telling them to control the crowd. The Ashanti Regional Minister, Dr. Frank Amoakohene, live on Joy News, in here to look at the gravity of the situation at the KGTR market. Doc in your short skipped all of his assignment to be here to see what has happened today. It's been hours, but still the fire is still worse. It gets worse as time goes on, and the place is equally crowded. Dr. Frank Amoakohene would have to go up to the walkway to see for himself what has happened. We'll do very well to get you a clear shot of all that the regional minister and his team coming into the walkway. So we're on top, and you can see Dr. Frank Amoakohene coming with his team, police service, national security operatives. All of them are in here to look at the situation themselves.
Nti fire for no edum ha say ni nyina. Nti kakra na beba no. Na no so asatra eko. Nti other side ono so no. Say yeah.
So you see in your shorts.
I shall say what I say within structures now. Passing to me, almost heating into a moon to me because of the petrol need diesel. No. Into I shall say what I say. And because of within structures, no air core. Because we're far away from a free Hello FM building up to us saying until who said that will be say 5 tender no. Who said there's no any ABR? I was saying. Into any later we can create a space in case of any fire for net media chance area. Say I'm careful. Say strike the symbol when nature no supposed to me as a call. Yeah. And a cylinder so many Adrian no. Oh, this more. And I saw this is a tender number of which me jina. Fire for the BY.
So Dr. Frank Amoakohene is done with his inspection. Probably not done, but he has been informed. RM, you've been here. He's declined to speak, but let's just see if he would be able to say a word or two. He wants to know the situation before he would be able to brief us. That is why he's doing all of his consultation. Probably after that, would be able to speak to Dr. Frank Amoakohene. So the regional minister engaging with the security operatives. They are briefing him on the situation that might have led to the outbreak and even the widespread of it. He has said that they should pave way for the fire tenders to make it into the inner perimeter to quench the fire from there, because the place is crowded and they would not be able to get in there with their vehicle. It looks like a very tough time for him as a regional minister who took over not long ago. And it's a very serious situation here, Benjamin. Very difficult to witness, because from where we are and where we stand, and from the briefing that we have, it doesn't look like the fire would go down anytime soon. With all the briefings that he has, there would be a lot to do for him as regional minister. That is Dr. Frank taking a brief from the national security operatives.
King, I heard some talk about petrol and diesel
at the Kejitia market.
Nana Boakye, I heard something said about petrol and diesel and the impact on the fire. Can you explain to us what exactly the person was saying?
Outbreak is yet to be determined. There would be a need for an investigation into the matter before RM would be able to brief us.
president is coming, so he's rushing to the airport.
We're being told that he has to rush to the airport because the president will be in town soon. But if possible, we could get a word or two from him. But no, that is Dr. Frank Amoakohene. He's done with his inspection and he has to drive because we are being told that the president would be in very soon. Will be in the Ashanti region for the tree planted project at Nkarie. So he has to be at the airport to pick up the president. And when he is done with that, he drives with the president to Nkarie for the tree planting project. And then we are hoping that after that, His Excellency the President himself would come and see for himself. And also probably hear from the president and his team on the measures that are going to be put in place to curb the situation and ensure that it doesn't occur again. This time around, the regional minister is in with all of his security operatives from the Regional Coordinating Council. The National Security Operative is here to brief us.
It started around 5 a.m. thereabout. We arrived here around 5:15. The issue is the fire service. In fact, they did their best. The main problem is how to get access to where the fire started. You see, had that been a way through, they would have finished their work within 30 minutes. But the people were even disrupting them. Some were looting. We have to go and then be arresting some of them. And the military too came in and then they even helped us a lot. So now, the fire is towards the Roman Hill area, towards the phase 2 of the building. Yeah, so they are still working on it seriously. And still, the fire is still raging. And there are water in the tenders, but still how to get to the main where the fire is our problem right now.
What's causing the access challenge?
The structures, these wooden structures that they built on the railway, that is the major problem that is even causing the fire. You can see when we went upstairs with the minister, still the fire was still raging and there's no access. You can see that there are waters in the tenders, but how to get to the main area is the problem. So we are still working on it. The military have come and they are bringing extra people to come and help us.
What's the way forward?
The way forward is we are bringing the ministers and this to clear all these things from here so that the fire service will get access to them. We are bringing excavators, bulldozers to come and clear the road so that the fire tenders will get access to
What is the anticipated time that you think can help you or you need to quench this fire?
Brother, I think it can take about extra 3-4 hours. It can take about extra 3-4 hours because the tenders are here. Some are from Ejusu Airport, Mampong, and so we have about 11 of them here. But the problem, as I said, is the access. So as you ask, it will take about almost 4-5 hours before you can quench it off.
That is to say that it will continue to spread widely.
It is still continuing. It is still. I think you yourselves, you've seen it. It is still continuing towards the Roman Hill edge. But the fire tenders cannot go near the fire. They cannot go near the fire. That is the major problem here.
And the fact that you're unable to get into the inner perimeter, it shows that it is going to be very much severe. What are you going to do to make sure that your machines are able to get inside there so that you'll be able to quench the fire from the inner perimeter?
We are bringing in excavators from RCC. They are even coming. So if the excavators come, I think they can help about 60%. The excavator can help because they can enter into the fire and then clear the road for the fire service tender to enter.
That is to say that you'd break the walls to enter?
We will. Even if it's a house on the street, we will break the house and then the fire tenders should get the access to it.
Thank you very much. And that is the National Security operative who came in with the Ashanti Regional Minister, Dr. Frank Amoakohene. Dr. Frank Amoakohene had indicated that looking at the gravity of the situation inside the blue light area, where it becomes very difficult for the fire tenders to enter, they have to break the walls to get into it. And you heard the National Security Operative himself say that looking at what they are seeing right now, they would have to break in and enter. And even if it is a house that is blocking them from having access into the inner perimeter to quench the fire, they are going to break down the house or the building. Right now, the fire is still spreading widely. It has already swept through numerous shops, numerous buildings, and they have been widely affected. The traders are counting their losses. The traders are calling on the authorities to quickly intervene to make sure that this does not get into other shops that have not yet been affected. He says that they would need about 4 to 5 hours to quench the fire totally, and that looks like a very long period to be able to bring down the fire. Looking at the gravity of it, it is a very serious fire, very catastrophic. The fire that started from the building next to Hello FM, the top floor, swept through the entire building, went all the way to the next building that is opposite the Otumfo runabout. It went all the way to the other building opposite the phase 2 of the KJTL Markets project, and then from there it swept through other buildings and other blocks that are opposite the Roman Hill area or around the Roman Hill area. And that is where the fire tenders have moved to right now, because that place is seriously on fire. Meanwhile, the inner perimeter of the CBD, where the fire started from, or at the back of the Hello FM building, the Spites building, is still on fire. That place is where they find it difficult to enter to be able to quench the fire. But the RM, the regional minister, and the security operative have said that they are going to break the walls so that they can enter. Fear is that this fire will sweep through the Despite building and have its way into the Hello FM block, but then the security operatives, the fire tender machines, and the fire service operatives are doing their best to make sure that it doesn't get affected. That block, the Despite building, doesn't get affected, and other shops around the CBD does not get affected as well. And so this is the situation. A fire that started around 4 a.m. swept through 5, 6 a.m. and up to now, some few minutes to the top of the hour, 9 o'clock, the fire service is still unable to quench this stubborn fire. They have said that they will still need about 5 hours to quench this fire, showing the gravity of the situation on ground. Meanwhile, the RM is expected to meet President John Dramani Mahama at the airport, and he's expected to commission the tree planting project. Then we are also anticipating that the president would come here to see for himself what has happened, and also going forward bring out a solution, and also to see what the traders can expect from government, because as at now, that is their cry, that is their worry, and that is what they are anticipating. Over to you.
Can you hear me? Well, it appears, and that is the situation on the ground. The fire still blazing there. I see some of you commenting, some saying this is the situation and that it ought to be dealt with speedily. Some of you say some of those who spoke should not have spoken because they have to get on the ground and work. But if they do not speak, how do we know what exactly the situation is and what intelligence they have? There's also a gentleman who shares a message saying that we should speak Twi, and we don't like speaking Twi in Ghana. That's not a bad call, but first off, it's not only Twi that is spoken in Ghana. Imagine if everyone wanted us to speak their different languages. And the second bit, you can also follow on Adom TV. You can follow the action from there so that you, if it's about understanding what is being said, you can grasp everything that is being said. So that's the fire, that conflagration over there in the Ashanti region, the smoke billowing, and it doesn't look like this fire is going to come to a cessation anytime soon. But as we point accusing fingers, as some people did, we have to take a good look at our National Fire Service and where we find ourselves as a country. That's a conversation we definitely have to have. We're going to take a breather. We'll still leave you with some scenes, and we'll be right back on the AM show. Welcome back on the AM show. You can see from behind me, we're about to talk about forests, our forests. Today is the International Day of Forests. So how are you helping to preserve the forests in the face of reckless degradation of our forest belt and galamsey? We hear the president will be in Carrier, interestingly, on the back of that fire, but he will be there for a tree planting exercise. And here we are. Joining me in the studio for a conversation, we have Dr. Ferdinand Tonye. He's a research fellow at the UNU INRA. He will give us the details. And we also have the Etiwa West CREMA president. I'm talking about the Community Resource Management Area, Reginald Osei Akoto. Both of them join us for a conversation. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Thank you.
International Day of Forests, and part of the country is on fire. Idum Kumasi is on fire.
Yeah.
But why is this day important? I'll start with you, Tonye.
Thank you very much. I think we know how important forest is to the whole world. Globally, forest gives us food. It gives us clean water. It gives us air to breathe. Let me put it in a simple language. And forests also keep our climate very conducive for us to live in. And someone would say forest also serves as a supermarket for indigenous people who live around the forest, because you know very well in Ghana, you know about prekese, you always get it from the forest, mushroom, food, even fruits and nuts. So forest is very important to our well-being. So
right.
The UN International Day for Forest is very important for us to emphasize how important forest is and
right.
how indigenous communities depend on it.
Right. Coming to you quickly, Reginald, you are president of the Etiwa West CREMA, that's the Community Resource Management Area. Etiwa is we all know the significance of Etiwa. How important is a day like this in respect of our loss of forest cover, the impact of galamsey in forest reserves and all of that? How crucial is it?
Thank you very much. Looking at it, we are now on a paradigm shift as the importance of the forest. If we are to leave everything into the hands of government, Ghana is not going to cover everything. So we are on that paradigm shift so that the communities, the indigenous communities who are close to the forest, will have a way of augmenting the effort of government to preserve that forest. The Etiwa forest, for instance, as to state it, is globally recognized. And the community forming this CREMA, we are just beneath the forest. It's a highland.
Global biodiversity
yes,
area.
Yes. And it's a highland. And the communities forming the CREMA are beneath that forest. So whatever is there is readily available to those communities. If those communities are able to preserve what is there, is there that the nation can also have a say about it. Hence, we see that Global Day, World Day of Forest is very significant for us to celebrate as well. And we in that area also uphold it very high, in very high esteem.
That's a very important point you made. Let me also highlight that some senior citizens, members of the eco-conscious group, Awula Sewa and her team, are out there talking about, they are actually, let me just give you the details of where they are currently. Around the Forestry Commission, if you look at the Gimpa stretch, that's where they are, around the Forestry Commission, marking the International Day of Forest 2025. And if you look at some of what the placards they hold, President Mahama, you said you would repeal, not amend LI 2462, be a man of your word, and then withdraw EI 144 and LI 2462. So all of those actions happening. But in essence, looking at where we have come and where we have to go as a country, what should we be doing to protect our forests on a day like this? Okay. What are the expectations?
So this morning we want to share the angle of how local communities, they are close to the forest. So if there's any management, it must come, it will be done very well by them. So we are saying that government's act that empowers the local community, called the CREMA Act, should be able to empower the community so that chiefs, queen mothers, youth, everybody can be involved. If that power is given to them, which is already given to them, when you form a CREMA, you will have the certificate of devolution from the president through the Ministry of Natural Resources, that they have given you the power to manage the forest and prosecute those who go against the law. Okay. So the community owns the space and they are able to watch and then complement what government is doing. So we shouldn't look at governance at the international and then the national level. We must take governance to the local community.
It behoves us.
Yes,
it comes down to us. In the Ochiman area, there's something going on. Tell us about the impact of that.
Thank you very much. For now, we can boast of an off-reserve. Because
when you say an off-reserve, a reserve that is free from...
That's where we are farming.
Yes. Okay.
Farming lands.
Okay.
The 12 forest is a reserve that we don't go in to do anything on that side.
Right.
Unless we go, there's anything we do that is illegal. So the off-reserve where we have our farms, we are encouraging the farmers to plant trees. Most of them are farming cocoa. And tree also boosts the yield of cocoa.
Right.
And cocoa, when it is used together, it forms a forest on its own, which also affects the reform pattern of the area.
Right.
And that's what we are doing now. So almost all the communities beneath the forest there, we are all putting up to plant trees in our cocoa farms, which is off the reserve, so that we get a secondary forest attached to the reserve.
Okay. All right.
Which will also help us.
We have to go. Any final words on International Day of Forests? Make them brief. 30 seconds each. I'll start with you.
The final word is we can't afford to take out the local communities in governance of the forest. CREMA is a super idea. And then for us at United Nations University, our business is empowering this local community to be able to practice good governance in terms of forest management. So that is what we've done to Etiwa West, and we are happy to be part of that.
Hopefully that example can be replicated. Reginald, final words.
Thank you very much. I would say a very big thank to UNDP and UN University for what they've done, giving us that capacity to know that we are just close to the asset, so we must own it and protect it as well. Now we can boast of people now calling for even economic trees and other trees to be planted even in and around their houses, which also help in the climate change effect as well.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the conversation we had on International Day of Forests. Dr. Ferdinand Tonye, Research Fellow with the UNU INRA, and we also had the Etiwa West CREMA President, Reginald Osei-Akoto, and CREMA is the short form of Community Resource Management Area. Well, before we segue into our e-corner this morning, let me tell you about the Ghana Chamber of Shipping, which presents the Alhaji Asuma Banda Memorial Forum under the theme Banda's Legacy and Impacts on the Shipping Industry. And the panelists include Dr. Kofi Mbia, Dr. Chimanda Vasnani, Mohammed Samara, Captain Aaron Turkson, Jamilat Mahama, Stanley Raja Aholu, who is president of the Ghana Chamber of Shipping, Michael Luguje, and other players in the shipping industry in Ghana. It's slated for Monday, the 24th of March. The time is 10 a.m. to noon, and it's a live broadcast on Joy News. You don't want to miss it. But stick and stay. Up next, we serve you E-Corner with Noella Karinyali. We'll be right back.
You're welcome back. This is the AM show, but of course, it's now time for E-Corner. And today we've got an E-Corner special for you. We've got an exclusive interview for you. And joining me today is an icon, a true force in African cinema, whose name commands respect across the continent and beyond. With a career spanning decades, he has not only graced our screens with unforgettable performances, but has also played a pivotal role in shaping the Nollywood industry as we know it. Now, from his riveting roles in the golden era of Nigerian cinema to his contributions behind the scenes as a filmmaker, voice actor, and industry advocate, his influence is undeniable. He's a man of depth, charisma, and a distinct voice that has become a signature in African entertainment. For the Gen Zs, I know you're clueless, maybe some of you, but watch this.
Down with girls. What's wrong with that? I'm a man.
You're not a man. You're a dog.
I'm a dog? Let me be the dog. Let me mess around all I want. I'm the man. You can't change me. What? Look at this girl. Only last night she was professing her undying love for me. How she couldn't eat, how she couldn't sleep, how she couldn't drink, how she couldn't think without thinking of me. Look at her, darting around, prancing around the campus with this campus brat.
And joining us via Zoom all the way from Nigeria is the legendary Segun Arinze. Thank you, sir, for joining us here on eCorner.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're excellently clear. Thank you so much once
Good
again.
Good morning, Ghana. Good morning, Africa. Good morning, wherever you're watching around the world. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I mean, we would have loved to begin our conversation very progressively, but I mean, this week we had some unfortunate news on the internet about, you know, you not being too healthy. I know you have responded to that news, but for the benefit of your fans who probably never even heard you react to that story, how are you?
I'm hale and hearty. I'm doing very well. I'm actually waiting to finish this interview so I can go back on location. I'm working.
Right.
But you know, the world's a crazy place now with social media being a junkyard where you have all sorts of manners of things being thrown at it. And so what now happens is that people just go to the junkyard and pick what they think suits their purpose without even verifying, without even trying to find out what the truth is. The truth has become laid bare in the junkyard, and it's such a shame, such a big shame.
Anyway, thank you so much for clarifying. I mean, we are so happy that you're fine. I mean, clearly we can see that. But let's now have a conversation about the evolution of the film industry, the African film industry. Take us back to your era, during your time compared to now. What were the biggest challenges, and perhaps what was the scene like during your time?
Well, when we started, by the way, we're not the progenitors. We had the generation before ours, before we came in. And so we also brought with us our own kind of change for the movie industry. But when we started, people hardly believed in us.
Right.
We had to do everything. We had to do everything by ourselves. Had to look for the funds by ourselves. There was no encouragement, no government support. Even the corporate bodies were a bit reluctant in helping. So it was just a sprinkle here and there, you know. When they give you, they say, okay, just take, let's see how it turns out.
Right.
But by dint of hard work, dedication, steadfastness, being focused, here we are today. And people can look back now and say, oh, Nollywood is this, Nollywood is that. But that, it came with a lot of hard work, blood, sweat, a lot of things that came with it. And we also we're not privileged to have the kind of equipment that we have now. And so everything had to just be, sometimes we shoot on VHS, Super VHS, Umatic or Betacam. It was really a tough one. And so everything was manual. And then progressively we started getting into the non-linear digital age, and gradually this is where we are now. So we started on a very rough note. It was rough edge all the way, without belief, without any. But today, a lot of people will look back and say, oh, Nollywood, I want my child in Nollywood, I want my sister, I want my uncle, I want this. Everybody wants a piece of Nollywood. Nollywood has become that big cake that everybody's trying to cut. But when we were baking that cake, nobody believed in us. They were looking at us and scorning at us and laughing at us. What are you guys doing? And it's same thing with Ghana, same thing in Gollywood. I remember coming to shoot in Ghana. I was in Teshinungwa. At that period, I shot as well, and we shot some part of Accra and towards what do you call that place? Is it Kakala? What, I can't remember. Where you have the beach side, the Labadi beach side,
right?
Yeah. So all that, and it was we and Gollywood, we had the same kind of history,
right?
Anyway, we've always been brothers and sisters, so it's not surprising to me.
I see. I mean, it's interesting that you said that you started from a very rough part. I mean, I grew up watching you and your colleagues as well, and I could,
you should give me walking stick now. You should give me walking stick now, you know.
Say again.
You should give me walking stick since you grew up watching me.
I mean, you still look very good for, your age. But
like I was saying, I could hardly feel that roughness you're talking about, and so I guess it's kudos to you and your colleagues for putting in, you know, that work in spite of all that hardship, making it look seamless. But now looking at Nollywood today, do you think that the current generation has upheld the legacy? I mean, when you guys started acting, when you envisioned the future for Nollywood, are you seeing that future today?
Yeah, we've seen the future, but even though slightly distorted, but yes, we're still on track. Nothing is ever perfect. Nothing is ever 100% except God. So what we have now, social media has also come to contribute its own quota to the development of the movie industry. So what you find now is people are beginning to take, they're going to let them telling the stories in different ways. Perception is beginning to change for the industry. The younger ones are doing their best, but we'll still have some people who are still neither here nor there, who believe that, how do I put it now, who believe that they should just do away with all of us. You can't do away with history. That's the funny part of it. You just cannot do away with history.
Right.
But some of us have this sense of entitlement that, okay, you've done your bit. Can you get the hell out of the way? We've come. We know how to make movies now.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, you can't teach your mother, no matter how old you are, you can't teach your mother how to have a child.
But not to cut you, you mentioned slightly distorted. When you look at what the current generation is doing, they're doing excellent, but it's a bit
stories, because of the kind of stories they tell, the kind of ways they go about it.
Are we losing originality?
You want the honest truth?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, we are losing originality. We are losing originality. Those stories, we're beginning to ape a lot of things going on in Europe and America, but I think we should keep the authentic African stories as we know it to be. I'm not saying we do not have, because of travels around the world, interactions with everybody around the world, you know, we intermix the world's one global village now, but that still doesn't take away your tradition. I mean, a Ghanaian is a Ghanaian, a Nigerian is a Nigerian, a Kenyan is a Kenyan, a South African is a South African. No matter how you look at it, you're not a European. You may have lived there, but you don't take away your values, your traditional values and your customs. You don't take them, throw away because you've traveled abroad and you're wild to travel. It doesn't make any sense. So we keep those values. Let me use an example now. You know, in Africa, we're so funny. We say traditional marriage and then white wedding. You know, you go and do your traditional wedding. You now go and wear the suit and the wedding gown. Now, for the whites, their wedding is traditional.
Right.
For you as an African, your wedding is traditional. So you're doing traditional. You're doing the white man tradition, you do your own tradition. Sometimes you jettison your own tradition, you're going to go the white man's way to go and do his own style of wedding. I don't know if you get it.
I get it.
We pay bride price. We pay bride price. They don't pay. The Indians also have the tradition of how they do their own weddings. Are you getting my drift?
I do get your point. You know, time is actually one of our biggest, you know, haters right now. I really want to progress this conversation, but I quickly want us to wrap up with distribution. You know, the African filmmaking distribution. I mean, you have lived through the eras of, you know, CDs, cassette sales, and then cinema culture, and now we have all these film online streaming platforms. What do you make of that evolution? I mean, there are people who think that streaming platforms have come to sort of, quote unquote, destroy that sense of community, that sense of togetherness, cinema culture, you know, introduced. What do you think?
I get that. Actually, streaming platforms actually did, but you know, you can't help it. You can't help development. You can't help progressiveness. But the cinemas, you actually also do a lot in terms of distribution. We don't have many cinemas in Nigeria, talk less, and also in Ghana. So I think we should do more in terms of distribution, having more cinemas for people to go and make it a family thing, and also make it safe. Time was when it wasn't safe, but right now, I mean, people are beginning to come out to go to cinemas. They want to see films. It's released. They want to go out and see. But I think we should do more in terms of distribution. They're trying, but we should do more. We should do more in terms. platforms, you cannot help that. There's no way you can help her in the digital age. That has come to stay for sure. But they also will keep that tradition of cinema, going to cinema to go see movies, and it's very, very important that we do that.
I see. I mean, we are in the digital era today with the introduction of AI. The possibilities are endless creatively. What kind of future?
Even voiceovers, GPT chat, AI. It's come to stay, but now we need to find a way to strike a balance between AI and the natural thing.
I was just about to ask, what kind of future do you envision in the next 20 years? Hopefully, obviously, I'm hoping that you will be alive. What kind of future do you envision? What do you see in the next 20 years for the film industry, the African film industry?
Well, we see us flying saucers all over, right? There'll be no buses, there'll be no cars, we'll all be flying in the air, but no, seriously. I see a great future for the movie industry, for entertainment, taking it to a different level. We have the stories, and we should continue to tell our stories, our own narratives, and don't let other people tell the stories for us.
Right.
I see the industry progressing very, very well. Young stars making the headway, and more superstars coming up in terms of directors, actors, and everybody works in the background, works on a movie set. I see a great future, and I think it's going to be very enthralling, interesting times ahead for all of us.
Right. Baba Segun Arinze, you have been absolutely phenomenal.
I want to take this opportunity to just say something about social media. Social media has become very crazy. People don't even verify their stories before they go out and tell stories.
Right.
Imagine somebody just taking my picture off a movie set where I was working and put and say that his enemy or her enemy was sick. And the thing went viral. Everybody, in fact, it spiraled out of control.
Right.
And then I had to come out to make a statement and all that. And only just this morning, before I got on air with you, she went on my Facebook page where I had posted something and was saying, "I'm sincerely sorry. I sincerely apologize.
Right.
After you've caused me damage, my family, my friends, all over the world, I was getting phone calls.
We're so
What's
sorry.
wrong with you?" A stupid doctor even took my picture to start analyzing his father's sickness.
Baba, I'm so sorry, but I'll have to end the conversation here so I can make way for the next program. But you have been phenomenal. Thank you so much for speaking to us right here on Joy News.
Thanks for having me.
Right.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
And that's our show, folks, on E-Corner and on the AM show as well. We're wrapping up here. I'm Noella Karanyali. Up next is Mami Esi Thompson with Joy News next, I guess. Enjoy.